Ooh. What the heck did that do? Oh my goodness. I don't know. Okay. We're going to see if this audio sounds a bit different. Okay. I don't know if y'all can hear the AC in the background. I don't know. Let me see. Let me adjust one. It sounds a little bit better. Okay. I'm going to stop messing with that. Okay. So I saw that none other than good old Vaush and the infamous debate that he had with Caleb Maupin, or Maupin, however we pronounce it. When I think of Maupin, I think of the guy who wrote Iceberg Slim, because he changed his name. What was Iceberg Slim's name? Iceberg Slim. There we go. Sorry, the author, the famous pimp. What was his? Robert Beck. Yeah, Robert Beck was his original name, but he changed it to Robert Lee Maupin. So that's why I think back to Iceberg Slim when I hear Caleb Maupin. Anyway, let's get into this, man. I think I skipped to the good shit. Let's get into it, man. Let's do it.
5-minute opening statements, 5-minute closing statements for both Caleb and Vaush, in between which there will just be a period of time wherein you guys just sort of have a free-flowing, open exchange. I guess my duty as...
It has to be said, before we get into this, we did, there are people who did see the, Caleb Maupin spurg out. He's not a good debater. He gets way too emotional. He is not good at debating. That's not to say that, Vaush, really acted in bad faith. But Caleb Maupin is very good at, he gets emotional. He spurgs out. He's just like, I don't want to talk to you. This is the same thing what they did with Eric Stryker and Mike Enoch or Mike Pinovich. And it's just he spurred out. And he's like, I don't want to talk to him, and he just he blocked a lot of folks. I think that he blocked me too because I was anyway. So that has to be said up front. But you know what? I'm gonna let Caleb Maupin speak, and we're gonna go ahead and go with it. So here we go.
As moderator is to try and keep you guys away from personal insults and keep you guys on topic and try to make sure we're, going with one point at a time to try and keep this productive. So I guess if we can try to stay away from all of that stuff, that would be great. There is a 1 hour time limit for this debate, but besides that, I think that's all. So I guess I'll just let you guys talk. I guess which one of you guys wants to go first?
I can go first if you want.
I'm cool with going first as well. Who wants it more?
You can do it, Vaush. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. This will be pretty short, I think. I'm okay. Wait. First of all, I want to say, for shout-out purposes, the person who's moderating this, named Mouthy Infidel, is actually a very competent debater and a person who I respect quite a bit, in spite of the fact that he probably thinks that I am a rad lib. So thank you for moderating. Short notice, I know. Okay.
No problem. Thanks for inviting me to moderate.
Oh, wait a minute. This guy debated Eric Stryker too. I remember that at the end there. Sorry. Should have got closer to the mic. But the thing is that was an embarrassing debate too, though. That's not me standing Stryker or anything else, but it's like they're both kind of cringe, really. It's like, anywho.
So with that being said,
one other thing. Apparently, look at Vaush's ear. Apparently, he has something wrong with it, which is why he abruptly ended the stream instead of reading donations, which was very curious to me, to say the least. But yes, we got we got to talk about this, man. Oh man. Okay, here we go. We gotta let it run. Okay.
We're not like friends. Okay, no bias. With that being said, I'm a socialist. Broadly,
it's like Vaush to fall into the pattern. It's like, let me get close to the mic and start talking like that, blah, 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 And then of course, he'll stare in the camera and mug people, and just be like, when he's debating somebody, just stare, and he'll do like the focus in and everything. It's like. He's fallen into a pattern. It's like, that's kind of dangerous, But anyway, that's just something I've noticed. Go ahead.
A libertarian socialist. I value things like freedom and democracy, and I guess respecting the rights of the individual. And I think that sort of syncretically we can arrive from those positions to a broader socialist society. With that being said, I guess the reason why we're here right now is because you called me out on Twitter a little while ago, at the beginning of May, Caleb Maupin. You said a lot of really weird stuff, and it made me feel like we had some pretty substantial disagreements. Stuff like you kept saying like shame, like saying that I say all tankies are fascists or what have you, claiming that like I'm spitting on the legacy of the Black Panther Party or of other people who were revolutionary socialists in their time, telling me like shame. You said shame quite a bit, which felt like I was kind of being like scolded by like a school teacher or something. But yeah, I guess I was a little bit confused by your intentionality there. I'd be interested in seeing if we could arrive at an amicable resolution. Also, if I do at any point seem tired or out of it, it is not because I'm disinterested in this conversation. It's because I just suffer.
I'm not going to bother to show the AJW, the actual Justice Warrior thing. It was an absolute shit show. It was. It's kind of a rehash of what Vaush has said before about, socioeconomic issues in the Black community, this and that. It is very boring. Anywho, let's go ahead and hit this.
For critical brain damage following an earlier debate today, but hopefully that will not affect me. I am a strong man, and I will try my best. Okay, that's all I have to say.
All right. Shall I go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Vaush, we may not agree on a lot, but one thing I think we can agree on is that Fox News is no good. And you'll notice that whenever they have a Muslim on Fox News, one of the tactics they will use is they'll say to the Muslim guest, they'll say, "Do you denounce Hamas?" And of course, the Muslim guest will say, "I denounce terrorism. I'll oppose that." That's not enough. You must denounce Hamas. When they have an anti-racist activist or an activist against police brutality on Fox News, they'll say, "Do you denounce Black Lives Matter? Do you denounce the radicals and the Black Panthers?" And they'll respond, "Of course we denounce violence. Of course we denounce law breaking." No, that's not good enough. Somebody in the Black movement said something radical. We want you to denounce them. This tactic of demanding that people denounce other people in their movements is a tactic that the right wing has used against progressive forces and consistently uses. And the way it manifests it among socialists and against those who advocate building a socialist society is the demand, sure, you can believe in socialism, but you must denounce as loud as possible every country around the world trying to build socialism. You must repeat State Department propaganda against them. And if you don't do that, you are somehow the equivalent of a Holocaust denier or a Nazi.
Oh, this is interesting. I would say to those who listen to this, keep that in mind. Keep those words in mind that he just said about Holocaust denial and being a Nazi. That's going to come up at the end.
And that is very, very dangerous. It's a big problem in our movement. Now, Vaush, I know that you and I have very, very different definitions of socialism. I'm not going to change your mind, but I'm going to tell you the definition of socialism that I understand. It comes from Frederick Engels, from his book, which is one of the most important books in the history of Marxism, Socialism, Utopian and Scientific, where he says that socialism is when, quote, "the proletariat seizes public power and by means of this transforms the socialized means of production, shipping them from the hands of the bourgeoisie into public property. Socialized production upon a predetermined plan becomes henceforth possible, and anarchy in social production vanishes." And I think that there are societies around the world that have done that have seized the means of production. There have been mass anti-imperialist and socialist working class peasant movements that have risen up, seized control of the means of production. And yes, they've done bad things. Yes, human rights have been violated. Yes, crimes have been committed, and no one is here to defend those bad things. But I think as those of us who want to build socialism in the United States, I think we can learn from those struggles. And I think that portraying tankies as if they are fascists or as if they are the equivalent of white supremacists is a big blunder. And this kind of tanky baiting has been a threat to the entire progressive movement. The war on organized labor began in the 1950s when they pushed some of the most revolutionary labor leaders like Harry Bridges and William Z. Foster out of the labor movement with this anti-Stalinism, this anti-tankyism. And a lot of Trotskyites and social democrats went along with it, and it hurt the entire labor movement. Bernie Sanders' campaign, he was tanky baited because he said that Cuba's healthcare system has been good. 60 Minutes did a hit piece on him. That became the whole focus. Bernie Sanders won't denounce existing socialism loudly enough. This hurts the entire progressive movement. It's not helpful. And I hope that your audience, they may not agree with me about China or the former Soviet Union or that, but I hope that they will understand that trying to divide the movement, painting, people in the movement who are anti-racist and anti-fascist, as if they are somehow the equivalent of the far right, which is very dangerous and rising and pushing hate, that I hope people in your audience will rethink that and try to build unity among progressive forces as we struggle against the prison industrial complex, the economic crisis, the rising police state, and try to get to a better world. That's where I'm at, Vaush. Let's talk.
Yeah, okay, so there are a number
fairly reasonable. Once again, I don't know the history that Caleb Maupin does. Like I say, I've heard this from him a lot, talking about the CPUSA and talking about the history of the United States. Overall, I don't know this Foster guy. I don't know anything about that. But I would say that this is fairly reasonable. It was. And this is something that is a big concern, of Matankies, the people that praise Stalin, this and that. And, of course, the supposed people. And let's hear what he's going to do. Let's hear what Vaush is going to say.
Of points here that I think are maybe a mischaracterization of some of the things that I believe in. First of all, with regards to, so your ultimate argument is one against gatekeeping, effectively, that there's ultimate harm done to the movement when you engage in any action to distinguish the broader, the right left from the parts of it that you want to excise. Unfortunately, excising undesirables from your movement is, I think you as a fan of the USSR would probably know, basically a necessary part of any revolutionary activity. With regards to the tankies that are referred to, for example, I'm not referring to people who, for example, are at any point not as critical of the USSR as I am, or people who see value in some of the revolutionary movements in the developing world. I think these are perfectly fine things. I'm talking about people who aggressively engage in optics, which are antithetical to the things that I believe in. I'm not denouncing them because Fox News is telling me to. I'm denouncing them because they are my enemy and because they make us look bad. So, for example, while these people are by no means the majority, there are tankies who defend Stalin. Anybody who is in any way, shape, or form in favor of either of the two components of socialism that you laid out, whether that be worker control of the means of production or the destruction of the commodity form, should despise Stalin. He was not a good man. And he did not do good for the movement. He just isn't a good person to hinge public representation on. And
he's turning me into a Stalinist. Vaush is turning me into a Stalinist. He's already turned me into a Dangist. I already just feel like I need to just play the Chinese national anthem right now. Yeah, I can't. I'm not going to do that. But it's like, it's so ridiculous. I mean,
I wonder, then, how you would feel about the odds of Bernie Sanders succeeding in the United States of America, not if he refrained from denouncing the healthcare in Cuba or whatever, but if somebody had asked him, do you like Stalin? And Bernie had failed to answer in the negative. My issue here is that I think we're blurring the lines between people who have minor ideological differences but a shared goal and people who do not share a goal with me. Because there are people who defend bad things. When I hear people who are unironically defending, it's off the hands, like the Holodomor denials, like, oh, it was necessary, the kulaks were hoarding grain, there was nothing they could have done, they diverted grain. Like, this is abhorrent to me. Not only because it's morally impermissible, as far as I'm concerned, to defend, the actions which led to a genocide, but also because it's materially wrong. And also because it makes us look really bad. Whether we like it or not, socialism and its development in the United States of America is going to be predicated on our ability to relate to the average person with things we know they care about. Whether that stuff be healthcare or ending foreign war or bringing about...
Okay, sorry. Let's having some trouble there. Okay. Immediately, there's a lot of horse shit there that Vaush said. But of course, when he talks about getting the left or getting, people to the average Joe to understand socialism, the thing is that this is the same guy who, when Biden won the primary, he said pretty much just Fuck black people who voted for Biden and the ones that are anti-transgender. Fuck those people. How is that building solidarity? How is that building solidarity when you start to say, well, fuck those black people. How dare they? How dare they have traditional views? How dare they? They should be they should be as progressive as I am. This is once again one of the failures of the left, where it's just like, let's dunk and dab on people, and think, dunking and dabbing is not a political position, okay? And then trying to say, oh well, progressivism is the way to go. The hell does that mean? Allowing more transgenderism. It's like, well, even FBI and CIA are talking about transgenderism being okay. So, you're really gonna, you're gonna have to change your optics a little bit, my friend. But let's continue on. And of course, the idea of a lot of more, you know what? Even I'm being, I'm just gonna call myself Nosbo. I would say that, a lot of that was created, I think, what was it? Operation Hunger Plan, I think, a lot of that was set up by Goebbels. So, I take it with a grain of salt. I'm not going to get into Grover Furr or anything like that. I don't really care about Grover Furr. He's just some old man that people fawn over. It's the same thing with people like Paul Cockshott. They love that guy. Why do they love some old boomer who, by the time he passes away, half the stuff that he talked about is going to be anachronistic. It's just going to be old stuff that won't be used. Anyway, that's just a side point. Anywho,
a reconciliation between those who have wealth divides between them. I don't think we can achieve this by allowing people who adopt the aesthetics, optics, and rhetoric of authoritarians to run rampant within our movement.
All right, may I respond?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me just check what's going on here. Yeah. Yeah, can't believe Vaush debated. Well, I can't believe Vaush debated. Yeah, Destiny debated him too, so now. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he basically is like Destiny. I mean, he's, the thing is that he learned a lot from Destiny, so it's like, well, I'm going to go ahead and try to be like Destiny now, don't you want to grow up to be just like me? He's doing that. So that's why he's not as hard on Destiny, because ultimately he came from that, he learned at the feet, so to speak, of Destiny. So, as much as he claims to be more of a leftist, he's still very shit. Yeah. Yeah. Vaush is literally just a liberal. Yeah, he is. He literally is. I'm just going to keep it like this, and I'll just kind of go back and forth. There we go.
I think you're making a little bit of a mistake. Now, there are two fronts I want to respond on. I can respond regarding myself, and I can respond regarding tankies in general. In regards to myself, I have no interest in defending Stalin's personality and convincing anybody that Stalin was a good guy. I'm interested in defending socialism, not personalities. But you have to admit, the way socialism is presented in the United States, the argument generally is that it's failed everywhere it's ever been tried. It's created nothing but gulags and death and misery. And the response you generally get from socialists is, oh, that's all true, but I'm just so smart that I'll do it better. And that's a ridiculous argument. You look like a fool when you make that argument. You have to be able.
Brilliant point. Even I have to say, that's a brilliant point to say. I'm not, he's not fetishizing a particular person. He's not holding Stalin up or anybody else on a pedestal. He's trying to say that. He's trying to show a more realistic view of things. Let's continue.
Able to deal with the history of the 20th century and point out that everything isn't completely black and white, that mistakes were made, but big achievements were made as well, like defeating the Nazis, like electrifying and industrializing an entire country. And that's the conversation I'm interested in having. I'm not interested in having conversations about Holodomor or the Moscow trials or anything like that. That's regarding me. However, when you characterize people who do question the historical narrative about the Soviet Union in this way, you need to recognize that you're talking about not just guys on the internet who might be obnoxious. Nelson Mandela was a tankie. I will read you what Nelson Mandela said in 1986. Quote, "The Soviet Union is the torchbearer for all the hopes and aspirations. In the Soviet Russia, genuine people have been transformed from genuine people's power, has been transformed from dreams into..."
Yeah, before I let him finish, I will say is that, of course, if you do your history, is Nelson Mandela was part of the Communist Party of South Africa, which, of course, now the Communist Party of South Africa, as far as I know, has kind of shrunk into nothingness, really. It's kind of been overtaken by the EFF and, of course, by the ANC, which is much more neoliberal. And now the Communist Party is more of just a small little holdout, There are other groups that have much more power. But just to use that as a little bit of context for today. But yeah, continue.
The reality. The land of Soviets is a genuine friend and ally of all peoples fighting against the dark forces of world reaction. That's Nelson Mandela in 1986. So by saying that people that glorify the Soviet Union should be kicked out of your movement, you're disassociating from the African National Congress.
He could have used Paul Robeson as well. Or I think W.E.B. Du Bois as well. Could have used that one as well. There are a lot of other folks that did that. There were also U.S. There were people in the actual system itself. Like bureaucrats who actually believed that the Soviet Union did better than the United States as well. But that's a whole different story. Let's go ahead and finish this a little bit.
Einstein, one of the greatest scientists who ever lived, he gave a speech in 1942.
I hate those mugs to the camera. He just gives he gives that mug to the camera. The thing is that I feel so sorry for Caleb Maupin because he's making such good points here, and to a point, I think that he rightfully gets mad with the disingenuous of Vaush, but he loses it. He does. But anyway, I'm skipping to the chase here.
Called What Russia Means to Us, where he spoke glowingly about the Soviet Union, how it protected national minorities like Jews. He himself was Jewish, and he saw how important the Soviet Union was in fighting anti-Semitism around the world. He talked about their
more of that mugging. Anyway,
achievements in science and how the Soviet state made a big point of subsidizing scientific research and development. And Christopher Hitchens denounced Albert Einstein, saying that his greatest flaw was his defense of the Stalinist regime in the Soviet Union. Helen Keller, read her autobiography and the glowing things that she says about Lenin and the Bolsheviks at the same time they were suppressing the anarchists and all of that. To write off people that associate themselves with the USSR and its achievements, or with China, or with Vietnam, or with Cuba, or North Korea. Yes, I said North Korea. The Black Panthers sent delegations to North Korea. The Black Panthers studied Juche ideology.
Yep,
the Black Panthers waved Mao's Little Red Book. You should read Huey Newton's autobiography and see what he said about his time in China and how glowingly he speaks about Mao Zedong. Recognizing the achievements of existing socialism doesn't make you a lunatic, doesn't make you a wingnut. It makes you somebody who is open to understanding what's beyond capitalism. Now, my attitude toward these leaders is that we should study all of them and study both their failures and their achievements and blindly adhere and follow none of them. But as we move toward building socialism in the United States, we need to recognize that socialism here will be unique. We're not going to have Chinese socialism here. We're not going to have Russian socialism here. We're not going to have Venezuelan or Cuban socialism. When we have socialism in the United States, it will be a continuation of the progressive tradition. It will be the ideals of Frederick Douglass and John Brown and the suffragists and the labor movement. It will be that radical, anti-imperialist, anti-racist tradition of struggle in U.S. history taking power. But if you look at that history of struggle, some of the greatest voices in it.
We've got a lot to go over.
The thing is, let's go ahead and, before we hear Vaush, counter that, is Caleb Maupin is doing a lot better than what he did against Destiny. Against Destiny, he was all over the place. He was very mixed up, I think. So in this way, I think that he's improved a little bit. I think I'm trying to look at it in an objective way, and I think in a certain way, Caleb Maupin has improved a little bit, but I think that he still is very, very emotional, as we find. I keep on leading up to it. It's just I don't know exactly where it is, and I want to give as much context as possible. So let's hear this.
So far.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that there's two main strands here to
Did they speak for 4 hours? Oh, no, they only spoke for an hour, Carl. Yeah, they only spoke for an hour.
On how we should engage
between Caleb Maupin and Vaush. The other bit is this guy, Actual Justice Warrior. who's a libertarian, and it was just I couldn't listen to most of it. It's just garbage. But yeah, can't watch Destiny. No, I can't either. It's just most of it is just that's just how it is with Destiny. But anywho, let's go ahead and crack on with Vaush's response here.
Attempts at socialism, and there's also the question.
Oh, you
regarding Caleb's charges.
Right, I've got I think an addressal of that written down, if I may, because I feel like there was a fair bit
if you wanted. Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, if you wanted to, because I remember you said earlier that you wanted to stick with like one thing at a time. If you wanted to go over each of these main strands individually, we could do that unless you don't want to.
I'll broadly address this, and I think we can get into the nitty gritty afterwards. I'm sure we can find plenty to disagree with there. So this is,
I think, just to answer your question, Harl, I think what happened was with Vaush, I think he kind of did rage quit. I think he secretly, apparently there's this thing on his ear. Let me see here. Apparently there's this thing on his ear right here that he's going to a specialist for. And he's like, oh, I got to get an operation. Or I guess he was trying to set something up. It sounds like a cover that he rage quit, because it's like he went through that AGW guy who was, he was kind of ridiculous, but he's a lowbert. So anyway, but then I guess talking with Caleb Maupin for about an hour, I guess that just did him in. So, but yeah, it's going to be funny. I mean, if Jason Unruh actually does debate Vaush next, that'll be great. That'll be the next one where everyone's going to watch. Anywho, let's go ahead and hear the rest of this. Let's try.
The problem that I have with when I talk with everyone who believes stuff like what you believe in, none of what you just said actually addressed my points, because I've never said it makes you a tanky to acknowledge the benefits or the successes of countries that call themselves socialist. What's more, the material conditions around the time of Albert Einstein or of Helen Keller or of Nelson Mandela were extremely different to those today, and their individual opinions on the extent to which the USSR has brought hope to the world has nothing to do with the material reality of how we should advocate for socialism today. What's more, nothing that any of these people said fundamentally disagrees with my ideology.
I agree,
there were
Harl.
great successes committed by all of these societies, but ultimately, like, if you back up, like, what you essentially just did to me was a massive appeal to authority. I criticized authoritarianism in the first like chunk that I got, or I said like
Jason
these are
Unruh.
the values which are antithetical to mine, and then you responded like, well, here are a bunch of people, here are a fuck ton of people who have ever agreed with these. I've read Huey Newton's autobiography. I'm very familiar with the ideology of the Black Panther Party, the group which initially got me into leftism. I know the fact that they're Maoists. I know that they had some ideas which contradicted with my own, and many which do not. But the fact remains at the end of all of it that when we are talking today about what we want to advocate for, I do not think there is any room for people who glorify or defend authoritarianism or historical revisionism. You said earlier in that response, challenging the narrative. I'm very suspicious of that term, challenging the historical narrative, because I've heard it from people who, and I know you don't want me to draw any comparisons here, would probably be reasonably called Nazis by both of us.
Once again, this goes to the mind state that Vaush is in. You can already see that he wants to just chomp right in and just say, Nazi, 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 Nazi. He wants to, but he's like, so he this is where I feel really bad, because it's like you can already see it. Now let's continue.
At the end of the day, we have to accept the fact that we do live in a highly biased socioeconomic point in time. But when we're making arguments in favor of moving forward, we can't refer to the imagined successes of these societies we defend, because they weren't successes, not in the eyes of the average American. Now, you can maybe make slim arguments for Cuba. I think you can, because Cuba's done pretty phenomenally, all things considered. And if you want to go for like niche examples, Rojava has had a good like project going on its own. But if we're talking...
Vaush, will you stop talking about Rojava? Will you please stop talking about Rojava? I want to debate him on this and just bring up one name. I'm sorry. I'm going to make this longer than what I need to be, but let's see. I'm just trying to think of his name now. Again. Oh, yeah. No. Yep, there we go. Sorry. Let me do this right quick. I think I'll show the screen. Let's see here. Moti Kahana. Let me see here. Let's see here. Israel Hayom. I imagine that's how you pronounce it. Let's see here. Denies facilitating the sale of Kurdish oil in Syria to Israel. Says his only goal is to prevent oil exports from Kurdish-held northern Syria to Iran and the Assad regime. Kahana to Israel Hayom. I do not serve any side in this story because I have one goal: for Syria to be democratic, free, and this guy is a literal oil broker. A literal freaking oil broker. And people like Vaush are not going to mention him. It's ridiculous. Okay, hold on. Let me mute the mic for a minute. Okay. All right. Sorry about that, folks. Okay. Yeah. Oil brokers are Vaush's kind of people. Yeah. Yeah. Vaush's goal is to stop. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'd probably agree with that. Okay.
Talking about advocating the interests of the average American, any attempt whatsoever to defend the historical legacy of these societies, which have been denigrated by history, is going to come off making us look like wingnuts. And I know that in large part because people who advocate the way Bernie Sanders does are infinitely more effective at drawing people towards leftism.
Once again, he has spent a lot of time and effort trying to BTFO the Bernie Rebellions, and yet he continues to bring up Bernie. And then it's just like, oh, well, I'm riding with Biden is a good meme. It's like, the thing is, another thing, and you're not going to see it in this debate, but I'm not going to sit here and find every single video of Vaush's because that's just cringe. But he is, of course, he fetishizes immigration. He fetishizes this idea, and we saw it in the first debate, which I'm not going to show. It's just boring and it's cringe. But he really fetishizes the idea of immigration. It's just like, oh, well, first generation immigrants, commit less crimes than, native born Americans, this and that. And, he's just, ugh.
Than people who go by hardline Marxist, like here's the historical reality, here's the theory you should read, here are the people we should stand.
Sure,
I guess just this old world tendency towards advocacy is very, very counterproductive in my mind, especially since I know for a fact a lot of the more active tanky communities are not only in disagreement with me on some historical issues, but are also morally reprehensible. Like, for instance, when it comes to stuff like radical gender ideology, many of them are transphobes, at least in my experience.
Well, because ordinary people don't understand transgenderism and don't really understand the appeal of it. When you look at the fact that HRT is made by, let's say, for example, I think Wyeth Pharmaceutical, I'm not going to look that up right now, but Wyeth Pharmaceutical, who is under the banner of Pfizer, and they make literal millions of dollars making HRT. You have to question that. And it seems like more of a psyop, doesn't it? When you have the FBI and the CIA, and even Jason Unruh has pointed this out, where transgenderism is supported by these groups. When you look at these things, you have to say to yourself, people like Vaush, of course, will whitewash this and simply hand wave it away and say, oh, well, people fall into the trap of sex versus gender and all this business. Sex isn't the same thing as gender, and it's not about that. It should be about the economics and about people making money. But anyway.
It's engaging with some of these communities. Many of them are class reductionists, which I think is very funny for people who would stand the ideology of the Black Panther Party. These are things and I feel like I can't call them out because if I do, I just get called like a rad lib,
Okay. So I'll respond to that. First of all, according to your definition, then I'm not a tanky. I know that a lot of bad things happened in the Soviet Union, and I would say that probably the political repression in the Soviet Union, the lack of free speech and open debate, weakened the Soviet Union. The fact that people who disagreed with the government were disappeared, that basically made them so their arguments were never answered, right? It made it look like the government had something to hide, and they should have been politically educating the population and engaging them in debate and discourse, which in Cuba, you'll look at what they've done is they've mobilized the population to argue with anti-communist elements, and similar things have been done in China.
Once again, good points. He's trying to show that he's not trying to, fetishize anyone. He's not trying to have the great man theory or what. I can't think of my words, but basically, he's not trying to put anyone up on a pedestal and say, well, Stalin did nothing wrong. And he's trying to be realistic about it. He's trying to show that it's going to, once it shifts to China, it's going to go bad. So let's see that.
May I ask one question to clarify? Do you consider the modern day state of China to be a proletarian state?
No.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I think it.
No, I wouldn't say I'm left wing, Thomas. I mean, Harl. Sorry, I'm not left wing. I would say I'm more, I would say I'm more knowledgeable than anything else. And I know how cringe that is, but I think that'd be the more realistic thing that I have. But yeah, I would say I'm more in that zone of things. I'm more of a realist than anything else. But yeah, anywho, but yeah, just to answer your question, Harl. Okay, let's go ahead and continue on here.
It has a lot of problems, and I think that there are many things about it that are corrupt, but the fact that they have maintained, an economy where the means of production are organized by the state and raised 800 million people out of poverty, I think is a positive thing. But before we go on, before we pivot away from this, I want to answer one
Stop with the mugging, Vaush.
point. You talked about transphobia and such. The first transgender act.
This feels like, if you used to watch shows, ironically, like my Avi. Yeah. But I would say basically it's kind of like an episode of Magnum PI where it's just like he's breaking the third wall by looking in the camera. It's just you know what I mean? And that's my feeling about it. It's like, trying to break the third wall by it's like, oh, I'm looking in the camera. It's just cringe mugging. Yeah. Anyway, let's continue.
Activist in modern U.S. history was Leslie Feinberg, who was a tanky, a leader of the Workers' World Party. The first gay rights activist in the modern U.S. history was Harry Hay, who was a member of the Communist Party USA. The first Broadway play to defend gay rights by Lillian Hellman, and she was a tanky if there ever was one. She was a very vehement defender of Stalin.
It's saying is that people that you would consider tanky today were ones that helped get started, where the stuff that you talk about now, jag off, that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to say is that these people that you call, that may hold the same values as him, a lot of people in the past felt the same way. That's what he's trying to say. That's all he's trying to say. And you don't, there's a lot of talking past each other in this, and we're going to see more of this. So let's see.
So
how do you feel about
you're generalizing when you try to
See, the thing is that he's, is that Caleb Maupin is trying to chop on. He's trying to run through right now. He's just trying to run the gauntlet. He can hear Vaush. I know he can, but he's like, I'm not going to answer that question yet. Let me finish my point. But but yeah, it's just it's very sad with Caleb Maupin here. I genuinely feel sorry for him. What's going to come up? It's just Vaush just does a massive. Well, you know what? I'm going to let it speak for itself.
Yes, there is definitely there was a big problem of homophobia and banning of gay people from communist parties historically, no doubt about it. But I believe that's a little bit of an oversimplification.
How do you feel about transgender people, if I might ask?
I think the way that they're treated is awful. Bullying, hate crimes, it's despicable. The way people, have been separated from their families, kicked out of their households. I feel nothing but empathy for people that are transgender and face all the hate and discrimination on that basis.
You agree that gender reassignment surgery is a valid way of of addressing their gender dysphoria in many cases.
Ugh. I mean, once again, Vaush, take it easy. Every debate does not have to include transgenderism. It's just like, just take it easy on that. Like I say. But of course, I mean, even if I was debating someone like Vaush, of course he would just smear me as well. But it's like, I would just say, like I said, transgenderism is about making money. I don't care what you say. At this point, that's how I feel. Okay, let's just continue on here. Okay.
Chooses to do that, that's their business. It has nothing to do with me.
Okay, well.
I would like to try to get away from the transgender stuff.
There we go.
Just in order to keep us on topic.
Oh, sure, yeah. I just feel like sometimes reactionary tendencies are hidden by tankies under the guise of like a class ideology. Like, let's not address this. We'll we'll only end up splitting the movement over hairs. But yeah, we can
Sure,
stick.
I got you.
Yeah.
Hate crimes, discrimination, bullying is something that any progressive would oppose. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. What about China, though? I guess this would be like something I'd characterize as a tanky tendency. I can't get behind the idea that China is a proletarian state. They have, just a rabid market economy. The only difference is that it's all like.
So here we go about China. This is pretty much going to take up the rest of the debate. Almost, it's going to go bad. It's going to go bad.
Broadly organized under a state apparatus. But that doesn't really lend towards the individual power of the worker.
It's interesting,
Well,
Carl.
I think if you look at their economy, it doesn't function on the basis of profits. The state, which is rooted in communities, every building has Communist Party members in it. There are 90 million members of the Chinese Communist Party throughout the country. They're very well organized, and the state controls capital.
Surprised Caleb Maupin uploaded, apparently. I'm not going to, well, if you are subscribed to Caleb Maupin, you'll see that he uploaded the video of him debating Vaush, which is, it's going to be spicy. But yeah, let's go ahead and continue.
Capital on behalf of the population. Now they do it in a corrupt way sometimes, but overall it's been very successful.
But individuals
Mass eradication of poverty. They become the second largest economy in the world. Huge achievements, and it's because they don't function according to the capitalist logic. In 2015,
capitalist.
In 2015, the Chinese stock market, it crashed, and if a similar crash happened over here, there'd be riots in the streets compared to how dramatically it crashed. The country didn't even blink an eye because 90% of the population has nothing to do with the stock market. The state and the Communist Party run the economy, not profiteers and bankers. There's plenty of profiteers and bankers there, but they live in fear of a mass organization built by Mao Zedong in the mountains during a people's war that has taken power and transformed the country.
Yeah, this is exactly what I mean. They don't live in fear of anything. They're incredibly powerful, and the only way in which they're restrained is by their state of unelected officials, not by the people.
What? Even I have to say, what? People are elected in China. I mean, come on now. I mean, we just had the NPC just met, the National People's Congress just met to talk about Hong Kong. They will be keeping the basic law, I believe, and I forget the points, but I saw it on CGTN. I know, Chinese propaganda, but still, it's like, bruh, are you really going to say that people aren't elected in China? Are we? This is like this is, like neocon talking points. Nobody's voted. Nobody. Voting wasn't allowed in the Soviet Union. Voting wasn't allowed in China. Come on, bruh, are you really going to do that? Even I have to say, even with the DPRK, and you can debate about how legitimate they are, but even in the DPRK, they do have a social democratic party, and they do have other parties as well. I just can't think of them off the top of my head. Now, of course, ultimately, the legitimacy of it is a whole other thing, but to say that China doesn't allow voting is absolute neocon nonsense. It really is.
People. The reason the people don't revolt is because the Chinese people probably know what happens when they take to the streets and express anger with their government. If I had to get...
Let me see here. Hold on. Let's see here. Riots in China. Let's see here. No, we're gonna skip past the nonsense here. Bloody riots. Okay, so here we go. So 2009. I'm gonna show y'all this. They'll probably flag me for this.
President Hu Jintao left the G8 summit to fly home. to deal with the ethnic protests in the northwest part of his country. A local Communist Party leader has called for the death penalty for anyone behind the violence.
But when we ventured out into this ethnically before turning their anger toward the dominant Han Chinese, the spark, 2 Uyghur factory workers died in a brawl with the Han. Now 100.
Huh. So the Chinese, once again, as if democracy in the West, is real. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So Vaush, apparently people in China don't riot, and hopefully they don't. I just showed just a quick clip of that. Hopefully ABC doesn't try to take this down. But it's funny to me where you said, that Chinese people are afraid to go out because the government's going to take them down. And yet they were rioting. They were talking about, to be fair, it was because of 2 Uyghurs who were killed, and fighting against the ethnic Han that live in Xinjiang province, or Xinjiang. I think Xinjiang is just the city. Or no, it's the province. Anyway, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway.
Yes, and any broader political or socioeconomic motivation to keep them from going out. No. The average worker in China has absolutely no control or credence. Precluding them from investment isn't the same as giving them control over the economy. They have. I mean, they fulfill no component. They have a stock
golly.
market and a market economy, which means they haven't abolished the commodity form, and individual workers have no more control over their respective businesses in China than American workers do over here in America. The only difference is that their state is more powerful. The only difference is that they've removed the democracy. I don't know if that...
To say that they've removed the democracy completely is ridiculous. I mean, absolute horse pocky. I'm just going to, or as you would say in Chinese, shao fei hua. That's shao fei hua. Completely. Nonsense, BS, which, however way you want to translate shao fei hua. But still, absolute fei hua.
That brings people any closer towards socialism. That's one of the fundamental criticisms I have of the behavior of tankies. Sometimes I feel like tankies will call anything socialist as long as it's anti-American, which China certainly is, at least in a geopolitical.
This is also another instance. We're going to see how far this is going to go down. But I'm surprised Vaush doesn't have the American flag waving behind him with his sort of pro-American rhetoric. I mean, this is absolute fei hua once again.
Sense they're our largest opponent, but I mean, is that really enough? Does that really fulfill the preconceived notion of what it means to be a proletarian state? You have to oppose the U.S. and be in dictatorship?
Well, I was thinking maybe one thing that we could zero in on is because it seems like part of your guys' disagreement is just might stem, I'm not sure because I haven't heard your definitions yet, but I suspect that maybe part of your guys' disagreement stems from a fundamental disagreement on what the definition of capitalism is. So I was thinking maybe you guys could each define what capitalism is to you in order to help us establish whether or not China is one by both your criteria.
All right. Well, I will first respond to what was said. You'll notice China is one of the few governments in the world that actually supports workers when they go out on strike. And actually, there are a huge amount of labor struggles going on in China. And you'll see many instances of the Chinese government supporting the workers against the corporations. We all know about the horrors that happened at Foxconn and the horrors that happened at, I believe it was Hyundai, or a car manufacturer. And what is not told is how the Chinese government Communist Union went out on strike, and the Chinese government supported the striking workers and forced the bosses to change their conditions. There are many examples of that. Now, of course, there are things to the contrary that shouldn't go on, but I don't think that's a fair characterization. I think that the bosses in China, the business owners, live in fear of a state that, yes, wants to utilize them to bring in foreign investment, that, yes, sees it very important to develop a market sector, but at the same time will control them for the benefit of the population. And many of the private sector corporations in China aren't really private. For example, Huawei Technologies is technically a cooperative under Chinese law, But if you look at it, it doesn't function according to market logic, right? The way it functions, it's completely in coordination with the Chinese state, with the Chinese military. It produces products based on what the 5-year plan says. It's a state-controlled mega corporation, yes, that's technically private, but everything it does is in line with the Chinese Communist Party's vision.
Yeah, so
Now, as
so
far
it's an
as a definition
authoritarian
of
agency
capitalism-
in line with an authoritarian agency. Nothing you just described has to do with workers. In fact, China bans private unions or individual labor unions.
Here we go.
Yeah.
No, it bans what are called free trade unions, which were set up by the CIA, led by Jay Lovestone.
No,
Jay Lovestone
independent
was a
labor
renegade.
unions are
The
illegal in
CIA's
China.
Federation of
You
Free
can't
Trade
just
unions has been used against socialist countries around the world, and there's a constant demand in the New York Times and other publications that workers leave the communist union where they feel at home and join an entity controlled by the
You're
State
loading
Department,
everything you
trying
say
to
is
destabilize
loaded
the
with so
country.
much language.
That's
like
not accurate.
the glorious
That's not accurate at
state,
all.
like works in tied with the workers. No, independent labor unions are illegal. People have tried to form unions and it's been cracked
Independent,
down on.
i.e. U.S. control.
No, independent doesn't mean U.S. controlled. Freedom doesn't
Yes,
mean the
Free
CIA
Trade
is running
Union
it.
Federation, Google.
Now the thing is that what I have to do is this is the one point where, private union. What does that mean? Okay, what it means when he's talking about private unions is basically they're state-controlled unions. Think about National Socialist Germany, where there was only one union and you had to be part of it. Similar with Spain, they had the same thing where one union, you had to be part of it. Powder milk factory, that was responsible for dozens of dead kids in China. Yeah, that's why they go down to Hong Kong now to get powdered milk, and they buy it out. The same type of thing with overseas Chinese that take the powdered milk and they send it home. It's a very sad situation, But yeah, basically that's what it means. I would refer you to a documentary called American Factory. Netflix documentary. It is kind of neo-lib, but I think that there's some good points in there. Particularly the fact that, to a point, the Chinese said, or the Chinese CEO said, no union, no union. So when the United Auto Workers Union came to this Fuyao factory, which was an old GM factory that was set up to do glass, the United Auto Workers Union, they were going to have a vote, and they struck it down. They said, they sent in experts and everything like that, and they basically tipped the scales to say, nah, American workers at this Chinese company, you don't get to have a union. No, Zoba, goodbye, or Zaijin, basically, goodbye. We don't need unions here. So a state that sets up a union as opposed to workers' unions formed organically. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the thing. I mean, it's kind of a different thing. There's a lot. I don't know about the whole setup of unions. It's a little bit more complicated, but anywho. But yeah, I think you're kind of on the right track there, Harl. But yeah, let's go ahead and continue on there.
Jay Lovestone. Google,
No, I'm sorry. Do you have evidence
that
that every single time individual Chinese workers try to form a labor union, it's being done in tandem with CIA work?
No, I'm telling you that when you refer to, quote, free trade unions, which is frequently done in American media, that refers to specific entities that are tied to the United States and American intelligence. It doesn't refer to just random groups started by random people.
Then what trade unions can people form, or what labor unions can people form in America, in China? Sorry.
Every Chinese worker is part of the government union.
Yes, the one government union.
Sometimes that union doesn't function the way it should. Other times it does. But when you refer to free trade unions, you're not talking about any union.
I'm talking about individual workers.
Specific grouping supported by the United States.
You've already said
NGOs that operate in China. And that's not
I'm
fair.
saying it is not legal for workers in China, independent workers who have nothing to do with the CIA, to independently form labor unions of their own volition. They have to join the All Chinese Federation of Trade Unions, which falls under state control, another apparatus of worker rights that ends up being deferent to an authoritarian government. Likewise, your argument that China protects workers' rights is laughable. Foxconn workers are paid more in Taiwan than in China. China has historically been perfectly comfortable let their workers slave away at incredibly low wages because they benefit from foreign investment. That is many things, but proletarian state, it is not. That is capitalism. China is just state capitalism. It is the entire apparatus.
There we go. State capitalism. Oh my goodness, the old favorite, of anarchists to pull out. The whole state capitalism. Golly, oh, it gets cringe to do that. Okay, go ahead.
Of a market economy run by private actors, except some of them are also controlled by an authoritarian, unelected government. There is nothing socialistic about China, not in any way, shape, or form. Even the individual act of forming unions is banned by the government, and union organizers face a wide variety of pushback.
Unions. That's
no, they
that
have one union.
But I'm going to let you finish. I don't want to interrupt. We don't want to interrupt
they have
each other.
one union, not independent unions. It doesn't really count if it's a state union. Do you know what the term controlled opposition is? Oh, I think you know, but I'll describe it for you. So controlled opposition is when you have a state with over 1 billion workers who have less worker rights than their neighboring countries. And if they want to get more rights, they have to subscribe to a union that is controlled by the state, which has a material interest in keeping them from developing workers' rights. That is what a controlled opposition is. Hey, don't like the working conditions in China? Why don't you join the glorious Chinese Communist Party's single labor union, where you can absolutely, definitely improve the material conditions of your class?
Are you finished?
Yeah, I am finished, actually.
Okay. Well, I don't agree with you about how you characterize state capitalism. I think state capitalism is
the thing is, once again, I mean, I hate to give the whole standard conservative type of thing, but it's like, Vaush, you have never worked a day in your life like that. You know, is that you have talked about your dad being an executive in Hollywood, you know, living in West LA. We don't, you know, I mean, that should be enough of points against you, but it's like, you got your degree in freaking sociology. And, you know, what the hell did you do for a living? It's like, at least for me to a point, I can at least claim some, you know, some legitimacy in the sense that at least I tried to, you know, I worked in HVAC for a little bit. I did some work in plumbing. Plumbing was a temp job, but still, at least I could say, well, I did that sort of work. Biggin, you can't even say that. At least as far as I know. Now, I don't know. That's kind of more of a conservative talking point, but still, it's like, what have you done, bruh?
You're not
Saudi
a socialist.
Arabia, yes. I'm sorry.
But I realize it to a point. I'm just giving him ammo by responding to him. But you know what? I don't care at this point.
Finish my point.
Sorry, my apologies.
Saudi Arabia, the government pretty much owns everything. But all it does is make sure that profits flow into the hands of the royal family. It's a market economy, except the state is heavily involved. You can say that about Singapore, for example. South Korea, there's a huge amount of government involvement. Taiwan. And it's interesting because libertarians will often point to these countries as free market paradises. Well, no, the state is heavily involved. It's just a capitalist state trying to benefit a small clique within the ruling class. It's kind of Bonapartism, according to Marx. But you know, the way you describe things in China, I see the Chinese Communist Party as an organization that has rapidly improved the lives of millions of workers, and it's done so by controlling the economy. You can point to many bad things, and I don't deny those bad things. Corruption's a big problem in the country. Many of the folks who were in the countryside and didn't have running water and electricity have moved into the cities and have been very badly treated by employers, especially in the regions that are a little more free market. You know, no one would deny that China has a lot of room to improve on these things, but I don't think that by definition makes it capitalist.
I think
China executes billionaires.
I think Vaush is at least trying, or excuse me, Caleb Maupin is trying to be a little bit more charitable and at least admit that China is not perfect and that they do have their issues. But dang gum, Vaush, when you come out like this, you sound like a Fed, bro. You sound like a, you know, COINTELPRO sort of dude.
China very, very, very closely controls the corporations. You should read about Jintao culture, where corporations that have been caught polluting, they're forced to get on national television and apologize to the country in exchange for a shorter prison sentence. The capitalists of China live in terror.
Do you know what the term is for the private market being rolled into state authority?
China, the government controls the corporations. In the United States, the corporations control the government. Very different situation.
Do you know what the technical term is for an economy?
Here it goes. This is okay. Here is a point where it starts to get bad. Here it is right here.
Where the private sector is rolled into the authority of the state? It's fascism. We're talking about we're talking about fascism. The only thing you've been able to praise.
There we go. There we go. Oh, he says he's worked security jobs before. Oh, okay. Oh, he's a security guy. Oh, okay. Okay, well, yeah, all right. I'll give him that. All right.
About the Chinese government is that they elevated.
I thought you didn't equate communists with fascists, so now you do.
Well, wait, of course, because you're not a communist and China is not a communist country. So this is just me calling a fascist defender a fascist. Yeah, you're literally just defending China. Whoa, you're literally just defending.
Let's try not to talk over each other.
You're just defending China on the.
Let him finish.
You're just defending China on the premise of its authoritarianism. That's it. You're arguing like
no, he's not. He's doing it because we see that China is still considered a socialist country. He's doing it because China is rising, and we have to learn to do it, not just pretend and give lip service like you are, Vaush, that you pretend to actually give a rat's ass about these folks. You don't care about the Chinese people. You don't care about them. Don't lie to people. But yeah. Anyway, that's all the rebuttal I have. Go ahead.
It elevated the country and made them wealthier. You can make that argument for Adolf Hitler. The blood spoils of the war elevated the material wealth of his country too. That is irrelevant when we're talking about the extent to which China is actually a socialist country. Every time you defend it, all you're doing is defending the extent to which the state has the ability to interfere in the market. That's not so.
Once again, are you really going to try and do that? Yeah. A fascist who defended trans people. Yeah. I mean, this is ridiculous to say that, China is a fascist nation. Absolutely ridiculous. The reason I would say that is because I think that let me just, I'm going to give a hard opinion here. That way I don't look like a complete idiot. Oh my goodness. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Why China isn't fascist? Well, I would say China isn't fascist because they have given support in these other countries and they haven't asked much in return. Now, I'm going to be very specific when I say this. Venezuela, I would say that they have sent folks to they've sent doctors to Italy. This and that. I would say, also with Africa, various African nations. Now, of course, like I say, once again, Africa isn't perfect. And more specifically, those countries aren't perfect, particularly like Kenya, this and that. And the Chinese have been far, far, far from perfect. But I think that China is doing what they have to do. I don't think it's fascism, unless you're going to rewrite the definition of fascism. And, golly, I can't believe he went there, but he did.
Socialism. That's never been socialism. The workers aren't elevated in China. America has more worker rights than China is. I say with full and 100% confidence that the United States of America is more of a proletarian state than China is. And that's really saying something because I am not a big fan of America. This is my issue with like the tanky aligned people. I don't think you give a fuck about socialism. I don't think you give a fuck about
He doesn't. Golly. He says, of course, I don't really like America. But then just listen to this. This is just ridiculous.
The workers. What I do think is that you hate America, which works in line with you working for
what
RT.
The hell does that have anything to do with anything? The fact that you say
been on Iranian state.
Golly. To say, oh, I just think you're anti-American. Are you Alex Jones now? Are you, I think you're against America. I think you're against America. Turn the frogs gay. Are you ridiculous? Are you serious, Vaush? Are you? Golly, you must hate America. That's like saying, I don't really approve of, what the cops did. I guess you don't like America. Golly.
TV before. I think you're more interested in propping up state actors that oppose American geopolitical interests than you are in actually making life better for anybody. And if that's actually your interest, if you just want to go full fucking anti-America, that's totally okay, my dude. I'm not a huge fan of America either, but don't dress it up as you being a fucking socialist. Don't denigrate my social movement with your nonsense fucking fascist defense.
My social. See, this is, once again, I thought it was for everybody. Why does it have to be your social movement? The fact that you said, "Oh, my social movement," shows that he has distanced himself from people. ordinary people. He says, my movement. This is my thing. My socialism. When you get into that, you've already lost. It shows that you're not willing to deal with ordinary people, that you have a preconceived notion that people should accept transgenderism. They should accept your ideas of, getting rid of all races and gender abolition and all this stuff, which of course Vaush does. He's against all those things. Unless they agree with those certain points and say, trans rights and, gender abolition and race abolition, then at the very least, you're going to be considered a tanky. But yeah.
Defending American anti-exceptionalist dogma. Why not just be honest with just go on Iranian TV and talk about how American devils are going to rid the entire world of the well-being of their children or something.
All right. Well, for the purposes of this conversation, I would like to try and stay away from.
Once again, the mod is trying, I think, but
discussing.
That's right. I only need to do it once. No problem.
It's possible.
You don't do it just once. We know you don't just do it just once. Yeah.
Or whatever, but yeah, go on.
Okay, well, I'll respond to 3 of those points. First of all, the work that I do as an RT reporter and that my coworkers do is something I'm very proud of. And I find it despicable that you would repeat State Department talking points against us at a time where freedom of speech is under attack, freedom of the press is under attack. This is something I'm very, very disappointed in. I'm not here as a representative of RT. There are many different viewpoints represented on RT. I'm not going to dignify that with a further response. I'm very, very disappointed to see you promoting McCarthyism. Mm-hmm. Secondly, so am I a tanky or not?
Golly, Vaush. I mean, what a jagoff. He just starts, laughing, thinking it's funny. It's genuine. A lot of people have been taken down. Of course, ultimately, you don't like it because they're generally right-wing. Look at, I can't think of the movements, They made trans, gay, women's rights the moral high ground. Yeah, that's true, GSP. Absolutely.
First, I wasn't a tanky because I didn't quibble about Holodomor. Now I'm back to being a tanky because I like China. But again, when I start talking about Nelson Mandela and the Black Panthers, all of a sudden I'll not be a tanky. I think the definition of tanky is very fluid in this conversation. Second of all, I consider myself to be the most patriotic person around. It is not in the interest of the United States to have a new war with China. It is not in the interest of the United States to have a new war with Iran or with Russia or any of these countries. Wars are devastating. We need international.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you there. I think that's one of the most reasonable points I've ever heard right there. Absolutely true. We don't need a war with Iran. We don't need a war with China. We do need other things that need to happen internally, but we don't need more outside wars. We don't need them. We don't want them. We shouldn't have, thousands of troops. I think it's like 25,000 troops on the Korean border at Panmunjom. We don't need to be there, But yeah, that's got off topic. Anywho, continue.
National cooperation right now, especially against the pandemic. And right now, especially the anti-Chinese hysteria is very, very frightening. The idea that instead of admitting that we should be working with them to fight against the pandemic, our leaders are whipping up every extreme, unproven allegation against China is very, very disappointing to me. I want to see a United States that gets along better with China, with Russia, with Venezuela, with Cuba, with every country around the world, Vietnam, every country building socialism or building an independent economy. I want to see friendship and cooperation. So to describe me as someone who hates average Americans and all of that, I think socialism and having our government control the economy and fight for the people, I think that would be in the interest of the population overall. Now, I have to address this issue of fascism. You say fascism is simply a...
So let's stop right there just for a moment, because I cannot find fault with anything that Caleb Maupin said. Brilliant points right there. The fact is, the only thing I will take issue with is that this will take a lot of time to do. And the thing is, the first off would be getting troops out of Korea, getting troops out of Japan, getting troops out of Europe, getting troops out of Africa, getting troops out of wherever the case may be, get them out. But of course, we are not going to do that. And I say the royal we in this case because we know it's very messy. And ultimately we still want to have our fingers in everybody's pie because we're used to it. Anywho.
Authoritarianism. Well, many authoritarian societies have existed throughout history. Fascism, if you understand the Marxist tradition, is a form of Bonapartism. It is when capitalism is in a state of crisis, one section of the ruling class utilizing the state to rain mass death and destruction to beat down sections of the population in the hopes of stabilizing the economy. When Hitler took power, he basically represented the German industrialists.
Here we go. Once again, we see Vaush. He throws these out like little pins, or he throws them out like they're little darts. You know, he's like, oh, I'm going to be clever and I'm going to throw out these, like the Uyghur Muslims. Bring up the new economic, what is it? The NED. Let me see here. Sorry. NED U.S. politics. There we go. Yeah. So NED U.S. Yeah. National Endowment for Democracy. And let's see here. The NED U.S. politics. Let's see what the NED says about the Uyghurs. The National Economic, NED.org. So yeah, this is 2019. Let's see here. Another thing about Uyghurs. Interesting. Yeah, National Endowment for Democracy, spreading freedom around the world. Interesting. Let's see here. Violent suppression 10 years ago on July 5th of the protest march, fighting terrorism. You know, Vaush is literally going to take up a group that is paid for by the United States government that funds the rebels and, that funds these pretty much these CIA spooks and these other puppets in Hong Kong, people like Joshua Wong. I mean, golly, you're making me sound more like the people that, anyway, go ahead.
He set up concentration camps. He broke the labor movement, and he did not control the means of production. I mean, it was largely a private economy, and it was, it was mass killing of workers. It was a mass regime of political repression. The same thing was done in Italy with Mussolini. The same thing was done in Spain with Franco. Fascism is a form of right-wing Bonapartism rooted in anti-communism, rooted in the idea that we got to kill the commies. Anything's better than the commies. It's right-wing, and it's propped up by the United States. I mean, IBM, the computer corporation, ran the punch card machine for the Holocaust, right? I mean, Henry Ford was very, very closely tied in with the Nazi regime. And American capitalists thought Hitler was great because he was killing communists. Hitler was the ultimate anti-tanky. He preached this hysterical anti-communisim. The Reds are coming, anything against Russia. He killed 26 million Russians in his invasion. So to try and paint people who want peace and cooperation with China or Russia as if we're the equivalent of Nazis is just, that's historical revisionism. I've ever heard.
So that's a nice misdirection. First of all, I never said fascism was authoritarianism. I said that economically it was rolling the power of the private sector into the state, which is the definition, and that is what China does pretty effectively. I noticed, by the way, that you described socialism as the government fighting for the people. Interesting, because National Socialists described it the exact same way. The government doesn't have shit to do with socialism. It's about the workers, my dude. I don't know why you have so little faith in the...
Even I have to say, Vaush, is that eventually the whole idea is it's called dictatorship of the proletariat. It means that the people can vote in and vote out who they want to. But guess what? The government still exists. Even, go back to the videos if y'all actually look at this channel. I have a playlist for the whole book, or at least the version that I read of State and Revolution. And in it, I can remember very specifically where Lenin says, and I think he was basing it off of what Marx and Engels said, is that basically kick the buggers out that are there now. But we're going to have to keep the same system that we have, and eventually then we're going to allow it to, die off and to wither away, and then we're going to create a more fair system. It's called dictatorship of the proletariat. When you say, oh, well, it's not the government, the people will become the government. This is just Vaush being like, I just want to own this tanky so bad that I'm going to make points that sound like neocon propaganda to defend, delegitimizing China, doing what they have to do to defend their country. Okay, we're almost there, folks. We're about 28 minutes left, so let's just finish this up.
The average proletarian, but your constant deference back to an authoritarian state to lead the vanguard is very strange to me. I don't know at what point I indicated I wanted war with China. That was a really weird departure from our conversation. I obviously do not. But you claimed, it's really funny to me that you claimed that it would that it was disgusting that I would attack your defense of China during a time where our free speech was being threatened by fascists, when the free speech of billions of people in China is being threatened every single day by their government and their social credit system. The Uyghur Muslims are being genocided as we speak. And
you don't care about the Uyghurs. You don't care about any. Once again, this is one of the strange things to me that I don't understand about modern day lefties in general. Is they will talk about, well, we have to defend the Uyghur Muslims. We have to defend, the Kurds. It's like, the Kurds were Sunni Muslim. Mostly Sunni Muslim. We're going to defend the Uyghurs, which as far as I know are mostly Sunni Muslim as well. And yet you're an anti-theist. But of course, he is backed off and he's very mum about religion in general. He will, of course, slam Christianity all day. But of course, when it comes to Islam, he's very mum about it. And of course, even in some ways, he's like, well, Islam is just as bad as Christianity. Horseshoe theory, proven. It's just, absolute cringe.
for you to make the argument while defending that country that I'm the one impugning freedom of speech by criticizing you for your authoritarian tendencies is fucking disgusting. I also like how you deferred to an accusation of me engaging in McCarthyism for criticizing China when all of my criticisms were that they weren't elevating the workers. It's an interesting criticism for a McCarthyite.
That's a good point by Jason Unruh. Vaush, you deliberately went on to China. Yeah, exactly. He deliberately went there because he knew that this was going to push a button. Let's continue.
To make, considering my accusation is that it isn't socialist and that I would like it to be socialist. I don't recall McCarthy sitting up there on the bench in court and saying, I have the names of 100 communists who work in Hollywood and proof they aren't communist enough. I don't remember that part, but again, history is not my strong suit. Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, nothing you responded with has anything to do with the material conditions of the workers in China, which tells me where your headspace is at. Why not?
The thing is, you haven't, the thing is that once again, with people like Vaush, he's kind of the typical lib who's just like, well, culture is just kind of a loose thing, this and that. You don't talk about Chinese culture. I'm not going to say I'm an expert, definitely not, but still, he's not going to talk about Chinese culture. He's not going to talk about how, how things are actually set up in China and how, how cultural norms are and everything else. He knows nothing about that, and he doesn't care. He just wants this as a talking point. That's all he cares about with the Uyghurs. He does not care about these people, these folks that talk about the Uyghurs or Hong Kong. They don't care about these folks. They simply want to own the imagined fascists. That's all they want to do. They want to own the fascists. It's the same thing with Palestine. They have no idea. They have no clue about how it works in the Middle East, or excuse me, I guess Western Asia technically is what they want to call it, not the Middle East. But they have no idea how Arabic cultures work, the history between countries like Jordan and Lebanon and everything else, and how Palestine is seen. These folks have no idea about it. They just say, "Oh, well, we have to, defend, liberate Palestine." You're not going to do anything about it. You're not going to do a damn thing. Stop LARPing. We know it's just a show for you to pretend that you give a damn. You don't care about these people. Don't lie and pretend that you do. That's all I can tell you.
Not just be anti-American. That's so much easier. I'm anti-American. There are people here I care about, I'm stuck.
Yeah. He has a pretty big audience. Usually with Vaush's streams, I'd say about 3,000 to 4,000 on average, Glasnow. That's what I would say. He's relevant because he makes some funny, he makes the funny comments. He uses a lot of, logic and, logic and reason, facts and logic. He's one of these guys who's just like, well, according to this study, oh, well, it says in this study that we need to do this. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Yeah. Americans used to widely hate communists before the Democrat. That didn't make them fasci. Orban literally can change legislation without barely any opposition. Orban has taken control over the ultra institution, hates communists. Viktor Orban is clerical Christian, ultra-nationalist. Orban is a liberal. Okay, I'm going to let y'all go ahead and talk that out. I'm not going to get involved with that, but y'all go ahead and continue on doing what you're doing. Let's go ahead and finish this up.
What are you going to do? Probably better that America be socialist than not, so I got to work within this, purview. But I don't know, dude. Just like nothing you're saying is socialist. Like, here's a question. Because we're ribbing back and forth. Like, I have a question for you, okay? Like, do you not think that the fact that basically everything is under the heel of the state in China might be precluding the ability of the workers to actually engage in socialism, especially considering there are independent leftist organizations in China that have been suppressed by the government because it doesn't coincide with their top-down authoritarian approach?
I'm so tired of you doing that. The thing is that it's funny because he hates his chat. He really does. He hates his chat on his separate channel because, of course, they used to do the pic of him doing the neat. It'd be like this goes in my cringe compilation. That one where they're taking the pic. He hates that. He's like, dude, y'all are using that too much. Golly, he's such a. Oh, he really can't take the. That we have seen. He will become eventually like a Destiny and will ultimately just become like, he's not going to be the same type of lefty that he was. He's going to be more like a typical, well, he already is a liberal, but it's just, he has the veneer of pretending to be a leftist and pretending to be an anarcho-syndicalist and a market socialist. But even with that debate with that leftism today is that he said, and I remember him saying this very clearly at the, towards the end, he's like, I'm not attached to those ideas. He's not attached to anarcho-syndicalism or market socialism. That to me should be a sign that this guy is nothing but an opportunist. I could say Fed or anything else, but the proof hasn't come out about that yet. But eventually, who knows? We'll probably all be trolled. We'll find out that this guy was like a high-level, Freemason. Who knows? But it's just absolutely ridiculous. Go ahead.
May I respond?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I think you sound very McCarthyist now when you bait me and say that I'm simply anti-American, that I simply hate America, that I'm motivated by a hatred of the country that I grew up in, of the country that I love and don't want to see dragged into a new war.
See,
when you try to
he's trying to be calm, but it's going to get worse. This is just, the foundation has already been laid, and he's gonna go right into it.
To jingoistic sentiment, he's working for the enemy. He's working.
Honestly, I should have seen this before, but it goes straight to 1,000 in terms of cringe once this comes up. This is awful.
For the Stalinists, that's McCarthyism. People know that. The government has nothing to do with socialism. Well, that's nice, but around the world, historically, when workers have risen up, the main thing that they've tried to do is take control of state power. You may not agree with that, and I respect your right to disagree with that. But if you read Lenin's book, The State and Revolution, if you read Marx's writings where he talks, I just read you Engels, the proletariat seizes the public power. And
what does Vaush do in response to this? What does Vaush do? He misuses Marx and Lenin. And I'm not necessarily a full-on leftist, but the fact is that Vaush just uses Marx and Lenin as a mere talking point. He doesn't care about the writing. Before, when he was talking with Bernie or Busters, he used a clip of what is it? I'm trying to think of it. Left Communism and Infantile Disorder by Lenin. And he used that as an example without talking about the context, which, of course, was the fact that it was talking about the Labor Party, about leftists voting for the Labor Party and saying that was a good thing. And, of course, ultimately, the Labor Party then later supported the First World War, which, of course, when Lenin, once that happened, then Lenin kind of took switched his opinion of it, and but anyway, and Vaush simply used that as a point to say, well, it's okay to vote for the Democratic Party because Lenin said it was okay, to vote for the the Labour Party in the UK, so it's okay. Yeah, context. It's absolutely, yeah. You would think it would be better, researched, but yeah.
That's generally what the understanding of socialism is. Your definition of fascism seems pretty fluid. I mean, you say it's when the government is controlling corporations, then it becomes what's authoritarianism, then, well, no, I mischaracterized it. Your definition of fascism seems quite all over the place.
I specifically
I can respond to
said
some
it
of
was
what you said
rolling
about
corporate power into
Uyghurs
the
and
state.
social credit, but I'm not China's lawyer. I'm not here to say China did nothing wrong, but I can respond to that if you'd like.
Oh, I mean, sure. I think it's, again, like I gave a very specific definition of fascism twice now. So, yeah, I don't know about that. Also, the workers haven't seized control of the state apparatus of China. A very small group of autocrats have, of billionaires and state and party officials. Do you think, like, the workers are in charge of the Chinese Communist Party? Like, do they vote?
So, I mean, as far as the Uyghur stuff, is China doing wrong things in those regions? Possibly. But you'll have to remember that so many of the things that have been going around on social media about that have been debunked. I mean, there was a video going around purporting to show.
Here we go. So now Vaush he's like, oh boy, now I'm going to rip into him. Now I'm just going to, this is the point where he's going to rip into him. But Caleb Maupin does have a point. Let's hear it.
Beating up a man for owning the Quran. It turns out it was from Indonesia. CNN.
Do we really want to go down this road?
I'm sorry. May I not be interrupted, please?
Okay, you do.
Miguel
All right.
Person of CNN was being interviewed, and she said that her child died in a hospital. Well, it turns out her child is alive, and the hospital records completely contradict everything she said, that was broadcast on CNN. Hashtag still no info, which was this popular hashtag listing people who'd been disappeared. Investigations showed that a number of those people couldn't be identified. However, there were a number of those people on that list who had never even been detained and were in their homes, right? Now, I'm not saying China never did anything wrong, but at a time when our government is trying to whip up suspicion and build a case for war, I take what they say with a grain of salt. I know that the war makers lie. I know about the Naria testimony where they had the daughter.
Absolutely. Caleb Maupin is correct. I'll admit, and let me just make this point, is in a lot of ways, of course, Caleb Maupin has been very smarmy. He's kind of given that sort of look. So that's kind of some points against him. But overall, I think that he has made some very cogent points, some very clear points. And you just have Vaush, who's just like, well, I really care about the Chinese people. And China's people are so hurt and this and that. And yet you have no idea about it. This is, once again, this is the ultimate of just the left in the United States.
Of the Kuwaiti monarchy, or this Kuwaiti royal family member crying in front of Congress saying, oh, they're taking babies out of incubators to build a case against for the war against Iraq. It turned out to be a total lie. When our government and our media is trying to demonize countries, they often say things that are not true. And that's just the reality. So I'm suspicious of some of that. Now, the social credit system, there's been a lot written about how the way mainstream media in the USA portrays it is not completely accurate. The Washington Post has run articles. There have been many, many sources, even within the mainstream press, that say that narrative that you get is not completely right. One of the main reasons the social credit system was set up is because there are people in China.
Let me see what's going on here. Yeah, I'm pro Maupin on this one. Yeah, even I have to say I'm pro Maupin on this one. Yeah. Even I have to say, pro Maupin, definitely. I like I say, you can disagree with Maupin on a lot of things, but I feel sorry for him. I genuinely do. He has made some very good points. And I think that at the end of the day, he's trying to say, hey, I don't like war. But, ultimately, my take would be this, is that ultimately what goes on in China is their business. If I knew more about China, then maybe I could give a better cogent, reasonable response. Ultimately, though, it's the same thing as I feel about Palestine or anything else. Ultimately, it's going to have to be a collective force between, the Arabs on what they do with Palestine and how to liberate it. It's the same thing with China. Is what goes on in China is going to possibly have to be done by the rest of Asia, but probably not, but by forces within China. It's just, so that's, I'll give you the penny no one asked for.
And have been levied fines by courts, and the government has no way of collecting that money, so it bans them from traveling. And it says you can't book a flight until you get on a plane. Well, in the United States, if you get fined by a court and you're convicted of a crime, you're fined by a court, and you don't pay it, you can go to jail. The idea that people are barred from getting on planes simply because they tweeted something critical of the state, I think, based on what I've read, is not completely accurate. That's not to say they haven't done anything wrong, okay? Again, I am an American. I love my country, contrary to your McCarthyist accusations. I love my country. I want things to get better here, and I don't want to impose the Chinese system here. I simply want international cooperation and friendship, not McCarthyism, not war hysteria, not polarization.
So I noticed that you completely ignored the is the Chinese Communist Party democratically controlled by the workers question. That's okay. We both know the answer. I love that your denial of the Uyghur Holocaust right now, because it's
Uyghur. Oh my gosh. Uyghur Holocaust. I mean, the fact that you have to call it that, or the fact that you decide to use that is pitiful. Absolutely pitiful. You should be ashamed of yourself for using Uyghur Holocaust. It should be noted. Absolutely ridiculous. And I think, Vaush, when the various stories come out about what actually happened with Uyghurs, you're gonna have so much egg on your face. You'll be eating scrambled eggs for like a year. I mean, absolutely ridiculous, my friend. Are you really gonna compare those two things? It's just okay. Go ahead.
Anything?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Denial.
You're trying to.
Oh, I know flaws in the narrative.
I know what you're doing. I
flaws in the narrative. Oh, I've heard that before too. Hey, did you know that when the Soviet Union originally arrived at the Auschwitz-Birkenau camp, the plaque that they whoa, slow down.
See, Vaush, it shows that he has been painted. He's talked to too many of these cringy folks on Discord, and that's part of his problem. But I think ultimately he wanted the clout. He wanted to just dunk. He wanted an easy dunk, so he chooses these folks. So now he's going to regurgitate all these points that he's heard as an absolute own. And it's not. It is the complete opposite. It just goes to show that you have screwed up your mind, my friend. Let's hear this. This is the point. Here we go.
Down there, Maupin.
Okay.
Did you wait? Hey,
continue. Right?
Did you know that the plaque that they originally posted suggested that 6 million died there, when in reality the updated number later said 1.47 million? Did you know that there was an order for a metal door that went to a camp that didn't actually have any door frames that could fit it? Seems almost like it might have been bought by another.
What does this have to do with anything, Vaush? What is comparing these? I can't believe this. He was talking about relevancy earlier, and now what does this have to do with the relevancy of what's going on in China with Uyghurs? No, this is not a comparison at all. This is not a comparison. He's going to catch some hell for this. He's going to catch some hell for saying this, and he deserves every last bit of it.
Group trying to incriminate that. Oh, wait. I'm not saying that the Nazis didn't do anything, mind you. I'm just saying that there is undeniably a lot of war propaganda following, the World War II that we should probably examine critically before we, fully address any of the accusations here. Dude, you literally are doing this just because there are a couple. Just because, you're questioning the official narrative.
I mean,
once again, what has China done? There's so many stories out there that have gone back and forth. Is that they've said that they've forced the Uyghurs to eat pork and drink beer or something like that. I mean, I've heard stories about that. I've heard, about torture, this and that. There are so many stories out there that we don't know about. The fact is, though, is that there are Uyghurs that are going to Syria right now, that are fighting against Assad. And you can feel, like I say, I'm going to take up the Jason Unruh stance. You feel as you want to about Assad. But the fact is that there are Uyghurs that have joined this ideology and are fighting over there for some imagined caliphate where they can, have their, inshallah type of thing. I'm not going to slander Islam, but still, it's just, this Salafist sort of mindset. It's just like, to deny that. And then it's It's nonsense. Absolute disingenuous, scummy tactics. Absolutely.
And you started this by saying you don't equate people like
it's a
with
trap.
Nazis.
Wait,
It is.
no. I don't equate all.
Everyone sees how.
Wait. I don't equate all tankies to Nazis.
I mean, the Holocaust is one of the most well-documented
Can you let me finish?
History. And at the time that it happened, mainstream media in the United States
were
the ones
okay?
downplaying it. It was mainstream media that was downplaying
No,
it.
because rightfully here is that Caleb Maupin was absolutely right to be angry and mad as hell, because are you really going to compare? You cannot compare the two things between what is going on in China with the Uyghurs, regardless of what it is and what the Holocaust was. I'm not even going to sit here. I'm not going to play the game. I'm not going to sit here and, do any sort of, TRS type of thing, or I'm not going to do any of that. Okay? Because I have a little more sense than that. You can have your own opinions. That's fine. But to actually compare these two things is just I can't. Oh my goodness. And just go ahead. Okay.
And it was leftists like myself that raised the alarm about fascism.
So
it was communists and socialists
all right.
raised the alarm and
Maupin,
said Hitler is killing people. While people like you, people that hate communists, people that hate the Soviet Union, they were the ones downplaying the crimes.
Dude, you don't give a fuck about communism.
Completely being deceived.
Yeah, it is. This is he did this all on purpose. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, fair enough. Fair enough. The thing is, it's just, for me, I'm not going to get involved with it. All right. And I hate to try to distance myself from it. I'm going to say it is what it is. All right. Yeah. I'm just trying to be a little bit smarter. Okay. I'm just being a little bit more pragmatic, but based angry Maupin. Yeah, definitely. He has a right to be angry. He has an absolute right to be angry to try to say these things. Imagine talking to a Chinese dude. I would love to see him debate someone like Captain Cool 07. I mean, he's not going to do that because I think Captain Cool has a little more sense than that. But it's like if he was ever talking to Vaush and said this, or someone that lived, that spoke English, and Vaush started to talk about, he's not going to do that. He's not going to, he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't. Well, I say that, but absolutely disingenuous. This is, go ahead.
Okay, but that's okay. We can back up a little bit here. Okay, so I know you're not denying the Uyghur Muslim genocide. Seuss? Wow, he actually. Hey, can I appeal to the moderator here?
All right, let's give Vaush the floor.
And it was about the fact that while leftists and socialists were raising the alarm about the crimes of fascism, mainstream media was ignoring it because they hated communists. Because they
again, he's just so upset. He wants to get all his points out. He does not want to listen. I can respect that. He's just like, no. You can tell, though, that Vaush set this trap up. And this was a trap. I don't care what once again, send the meme. It's a trap. But this was an absolute trap. It's just awful.
Preached hatred for the Soviet Union. And he wrote Horton Hears a Who to talk about Republican Spain and how the people, the republic was being crushed, fascists were murdering people, and the world sat back and did nothing. It was leftists, it was tankies who raised the alarm about fascism's crimes. Yeah, you're just completely mischaracterizing it. Mainstream media was downplaying the crimes.
Maupin. Okay.
Golly, it's just absolute, Yeah, this is just...
Watch the floor for a minute.
Yeah, okay. So, as I was saying, you're not denying the Uyghur genocide. You're just taking a couple of misplaced, like factoids that turned out to be incorrect.
Saying we don't have all the facts about
Holy
what's going
shit,
on
my
in China. I'm
dude!
suspicious of mainstream media, and the fact that you would equate me with...
So now Vaush is doing the Lamau, you mad? You mad, bro? Doing the whole, Cameron talking to Bill O'Reilly type of thing. Look that up. This is just... It's just shameful. It really is. Absolutely. I mean,
people who deny
Maupin, my
well-documented events in world history
Let's let Vaush talk
is absolutely despicable, and I don't want to continue this line of discussion.
Wait. I can't just let you engage in genocide denialism and then walk away from it.
You've made false comparisons between everyone's...
Notice that Vaush doesn't have anything to say what's happened, and that, are Uyghurs actually being... There's so much history that's going to come out. There's going to be so many books. The pro-PRC books are going to come out. The Uyghurs that left China that came to the United States were going to, go on book tours and everything else. Everybody's going to have their books, and you can just take it for what it is about what actually happened in Xinjiang, and you can decide for yourself. But that's what's going to happen. Notice that, of course, he doesn't say anything. He makes these accusations of, well, genocide, this and that. And of course, does he give any numbers? Does he give any sort of, well, what are the Chinese doing? No, he doesn't give any of that. He just wanted to shame this guy. It's just, yeah. Poor Maupin.
Yeah,
I feel sorry for Caleb Maupin in this case. I do.
Hey, it's okay. Hey, it's okay. Okay, my apologies.
Move on, please.
My apologies.
Okay.
I'll be nicer, but I do have to finish this one point. Okay. So often, when defending an authoritarian regime against a genocide accusation, it's more optically and rhetorically efficacious not to outright deny its existence, but rather to draw up some questions, like, "Hey, there is a lot of propaganda here. Maybe, possibly, there are some state actors who have," and then by doing that, you introduce the seeds of doubt that allow other people to then engage in outright denial. Now, I feel comfortable in making that comparison here because as Nazi Germany was a fascist society that engaged in a genocide, by every reasonable economic definition, China is also a fascist society currently engaging in a genocide. Though the societies are not exactly the same, there are many, many differences between the two. When we talk about a top-down authoritarian, xenophobic, ethno-state-like society that imposes state's will on the people, but then promises that the glory of the people will be brought about by the sovereignty and the power of the authoritarian unelected state, I think a little bit maybe, and that's kind of the argument that you've made as well, my dude. You haven't really made any arguments about the autonomy of the worker or the.
If I was more intelligent, I would make this comparison that Vaush has and where this whole idea reigns. Because the thing is, like I say, he's well known for being this whole race abolitionist, gender abolitionist sort of. We can all mix together and create the gray people of the world, as Mosley said, create all the gray people that, create people that are gray as themselves, It's interesting to see this whole type of thing. It's like, oh, well, because China wants to, ethno-nationalists, this and that. it's just ridiculous. I mean, how many, it doesn't make any sense because how many, there are big stars in China that are at least, Hapas, that are mixed with European. And I'm not going to get into, the whole thing, but it's like, you think that these Hapas, are ashamed? It's like, no, they are, these are fairly big stars, this and that, so just, I don't really get this whole idea of, well, the ethno-nationalist, what? And of course, he has nothing to back this up with other than his own emotion.
Abolition of the commodity.
He always, the thing is that once again, there's only two paths ultimately that Vaush does, at least in my view. He either goes completely emotional and just says, "Oh, well, we need to do this. We need to get rid of, gender and blah 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 because of this," or he'll use studies and he'll be like, "Oh, well, I'm using facts and logic by using these studies and referencing them, just to own people." That's ultimately the only two paths that I see. Now, of course, you can disagree once again, and by all means, go ahead. But, and he also just shames people as well. This is purely shame. I don't care what you say. Yeah. Go ahead.
Form every word out of your mouth to defend China has been defending authoritarianism, which makes me think you're not really a socialist. I read you this passage from Karl Marx on the third address in May 1871. But the working class cannot simply lay hold of the ready-made state machinery and wield it for its own purposes. The centralized state power, with its ubiquitous organs of standing army, police, bureaucracy, clergy, and judicature, organs wrought after the plan of a systemic and hierarchical division of labor,
So this is the part where, of course, Vaush misuses Marx. See, I think this is his last straw. This is one of those things where it's like he's always known for not reading theory, this and that, and he holds that as a badge of honor. But his final go-to, his always right before he just wants to surrender, he'll just be like, "Oh, well, I'm going to read this quote from Marx. I'm going to cherry pick this little bit here," and that's what he does. We saw this when he was talking with Bernie or Busters. Feel as you want to about them, but he has done this before. And this is his final line of defense in a lot of ways.
originates from the days of absolute monarchy, serving nascent middle-class society as a mighty weapon in its struggle against feudalism. Or in essence, the workers seizing the state is not nearly enough. It's not even close to being nearly enough. All you're doing is replicating the previous system of government, except with different people in charge. So we need a more substantive change, which China has not engaged in to any extent whatsoever.
Oh, please. You would do the same thing. And you will do the same thing if you ever get somewhere. But the thing is, go ahead.
All right. Well, when the Iraq War was getting going, as I mentioned before, CNN played this testimony from a member of the Kuwaiti royal family saying that Iraqi soldiers were taking babies from incubators. And thousands of people didn't buy it. And they marched and protested against the Gulf War that took place. According to you, they must be all Holocaust deniers because they didn't believe mainstream media saying something against a regime that you don't like.
This is where, okay, Maupin, this is where the emotion has entered in. This is where, okay, it's like you obviously didn't prepare enough, and it's like, okay, wow, I'm going to go ahead and use the baby thing again. I'm going to use the babies and incubators thing again. Okay, I'm going to see if I can twist it around. Okay.
That's despicable. I don't want to engage about this any further. We clearly disagree. It turned out to be a lie. It turned out to be a lie. People didn't believe mainstream media. They had questions about it. Oh my God! When mainstream media, says that a country is evil, we just have to buy it, right?
Disbelieving a single,
or else you're a Nazi, right?
Disbelieving a single data point is the same as being in favor with an authoritarian regime and then bringing up a number of
lie.
Wait,
when it's time to build.
Wait! You actually can't wait. Hold on. So just
wait! Hold on. This is another typical Vaush type of thing. Oh, wait! Hold on. We see that this is the point where I think that, of course, Vaush has lost a lot of, credibility. I mean, not to say he had much credibility in the first place, but the fact is that now, Caleb Maupin has this kind of, he's flopping around now, where it's like, I'm not, is that he's allowed his anger to take over. And I'm not going to say he lost. What I'm going to say is that I think the spiritual winner would be Caleb Maupin. I think that Vaush is going to have to do a lot of damage control for what he said. And he's going to do the typical small lip service thing that he did with the whole black nationalism affair, where he's just like, he didn't read too much. He just read some quotes about Marcus Garvey and then just said, oh, well, Marcus Garvey is a Nazi. Huh? Are you really going to be that disingenuous? Okay. Anyway.
People of like your IQ or lower who are listening right now, I just need to clarify. When we're talking about what you just gave as an example,
right?
as opposed to my example of the Uyghur genocide, the issue is the Uyghur genocide is happening. There's proof it's happening. It's not just one report of questionable authenticity. There is a plurality of evidence concretely indicating that it is something that's happening. Is all the data coming out from Western media about it accurate?
If it's happening the way you say it's happening, that's wrong, and I denounce it.
If it is, ooh, okay, all right.
But I'm saying that we don't have all the facts.
Yep, that's true.
There are a lot of fantastical claims made in mainstream media that people have questions about. And I am
absolutely
unbelievable. I'm hearing this from like a leftist.
I'm seeing how consistently the U.S. media.
Once again, talk about, is it going back to the beginning from what I remember, is that they were talking about, of course, about gatekeeping. And of course, Vaush is now gatekeeping himself and saying, oh, well, this is the litmus test that we have for China. If you don't agree with it, then you're a fascist, okay? Or you're a tanky. And that's clearly what he's doing, at least in my view.
Media lies, how the New York Times mistranslated workers in their video about China's healthcare. I mean, there is consistent deception in U.S. media when it comes to all things regarding China. So I have questions about it. Have me arrested, have me shot.
Okay, I mean, I don't need to have you shot. This isn't China, so that's not.
I think that, well, you know what? I take that back. I take it back what I said earlier. Is that the thing is that Caleb Maupin is holding up surprisingly well, I think, and he's still making cogent points. There is a point though where he just absolutely he goes off the rail, at least in my view. But let's hear him out.
how we respond to political dissidents, but yeah, that's insane. Like this,
Well,
this
actually,
is
that is
like
what you're
genocide
doing. When
denial.
you call tankies fascists, everyone knows you're dog whistling to anarchists and Antifa to be violent. You are calling for violence.
What?
You would have had Nelson Mandela beaten up by Antifa.
What?
Okay. Yeah, this is kind of the point now where it's like, okay, Caleb, take a step back. But yeah, go ahead.
You would have had Albert Einstein punched in the face. You equate
What?
people that defend socialist countries and question the lies about them in media with Nazis. That's what you're doing here. You're doing that to me.
This is like when I argue with fascists and they're like, you want to kill all white people.
That spit on civil rights marchers because they were part of the Communist Party.
Wait,
that's what you're doing.
So
the
my
Civil
criticism
Rights
at
Congress,
you,
a tanky organization, William L. Patterson, Henry Winston, great heroic organizers who fought for civil rights.
My criticism of you is that you've engaged in genocide denialism.
Stalin. You equate them with Nazis. You want violence.
See, the thing is that you said it's genocide denialism, and yet you have said nothing about what is going on to Uyghurs in Xinjiang. You have said nothing. You haven't said one report or since some, it's just that you feel that way because, the Uyghurs, we just feel sorry for them. But of course, like I said, is that Caleb Maupin at least should have brought up that there are Uyghurs who are going to Syria, who are fighting under, who are getting, U.S. support and are, basically trying to have their imagined caliphate where they can, live a more prosperous Muslim life in their view. And that's more of a Salafist dream. Make sure I say that. This is a Salafist idea. That's not mainstream Sunni. That's not mainstream Shia. That's not anything else. That's more of a Salafist sort of sense of, of what they want Islam to be. So just want to make sure on that. Okay.
No. Just you. No, my dude. They're not.
Caliphates, caliphates can be based, but I'm gonna be cringe to say that, but the thing is that when that caliphate is being funded by Turkey and the United States, that's cringe. Can we at least agree? When we say that, okay, Kareem? But it's all good, Kareem. I think that we can agree on that. But it's like when you're getting funding from Turkey, and that's kind of cringe. I heard. Okay. Anyway, let's continue.
Not all as bad as you, just you. You're the one doing the genocide denialism. Nelson Mandela didn't do that.
Great American poet. He signed an ad defending the Moscow trials and defending the purges in 1938.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Is that the right thing to do? Maybe not. That doesn't make him a Nazi.
I didn't say he's a Nazi. Did he engage in genocide denial? Why are you conflating all these different things?
I'm pointing out that you are painting people with a broad brush. You're painting all differentiation with the U.S. media on international foreign policy.
No, I'm saying
accusations
you
against China or Russia or other countries. You're equating all of that with the most despicable far-right human beings. And
Can you stop defending
and
fascist governments against claims of genocide then?
About this. I'm not going to change your mind.
Sure, okay.
China's a fascist government. Oh my Lord have mercy on. He does not know what he talks about. Oh my goodness.
Not going to repeat my accusations so we can actually move on from this point.
Okay, I think we're hitting that hour mark. Do we want to do our closing statement?
You know what? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do this. Press 1 if you think that Vaush is an agent. I'm just going to say that. Press 1 if you think that Vaush is an agent. Press 2 if you think that he's just a liberal. There you go. I'm going to go ahead and do that.
All right. Yeah, you can give your closing statement first. How about that?
Actually, I think you went first. In the opening. Do you want to go first?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, so I don't mean to make this like a criticism of people's personalities or anything like that. There is a persistent effort on your part to paint me as some kind of radical anti-communist. Funny, because you are the one who has failed to defend any aspect of actual worker ownership or commodity form abolition over the course of this discussion. You have painted me as somebody who is in favor of war between America and China, which is patently false. You have painted me as a McCarthyite for wanting China to be more socialist. And you have painted me as somebody who just blithely accuses everyone of being a Nazi, which isn't true. You are the one who got to the genocide denial all on your own. I did not lead you there. You walked there.
No, you led him there. Come on now. Come on, Vaush. Come on. You led him there. You knew exactly what was going to talk about with Uyghurs. You made the comparison. You of course, because like I say, you've talked to so many of these weak gnats on Discord that you just started to spit out all their talking points. You did that on purpose to wind him up. Do not give me that crap. You know what you did. You know exactly what you did. Don't play dumb. We know.
So I didn't even expect it. I didn't think like it was that bad, but I guess it is. I guess we are at that point. So my main issue is like, yeah, I think people like you are a literal fucking toxin, not only to socialism, but to the workers of this country. I don't think you give a fuck about them, their well-being, their autonomy, their freedom, their alienation from the means of production. I think you give a fuck about some little personality cult you're trying to build while working in tandem with others.
That's true. That was on Caleb's channel as well, yeah. Son of a Hollywood producer is an agent, whether he knows it or not. Yeah, that's true. And I was gonna let's see. Yeah, 1 legitimate agent. Yeah, 2 too stupid to be a good agent. 1 and 2. All right, okay. I just want to see that right quick. Yeah, still doing the old hot potato with. Yeah, exactly. Erdogan is a good dude. Okay, all right. Agree to disagree. Yeah. CTH. Closer to being an agent. Okay. CTH. Can't remember. Anyway, okay, go ahead.
Other non-communist states that just happen to dislike America. And I would like to remind that you and everyone else who is listening right now that hating America, while based, is not an ideology. And that if you want to be a real...
You might have to laugh at that. Vaush, we've heard you try to defend American democracy, and we've heard you crap on natural-born Americans. And once again, I'm going to sound like I'm waving the flag now, but it's like, we have seen you do this and fetishize immigrants that come into the United States because they're apparently, they're less violent than, natural born Americans and all this. And now suddenly you're trying to wave the flag behind you. You're trying to get, the little flag waving, get a little fluttering in the background to try to make it seem like, oh, well, I'm not against America, but golly.
Real socialist, you're going to have to substantiate yourself a little bit more
Chapo
than that.
Trap House. Okay,
Funny that you're the person who assigns, I suppose,
Chapo
the
Trap
tanky label
House,
to...
definitely. Yeah, Chapo Trap House is definitely, yeah. I think who was it? The bearded dude. I think his dad was in CIA or something like that. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Okay, thanks, Kareem. I appreciate that. Okay. I'm just too boomer. Sorry about that. All right.
Himself, yet I am the one who seems to have a greater understanding of the actual definition of socialism and how it should be applied. Plus, you're white. All right.
Ha ha ha! Oh, he said the meme. He said the meme. Fuck you. Plus, you're white. The whole 50 Cent meme. Oh, it's hilarious.
I don't know what
they did that because his chat told him to do that. Oh, it's so funny.
you said about my relatives, but whatever. You know, I know you're probably going to give this video a name like I destroyed some tanky, but I just want to review for your audience what they've heard from you so far. They've heard from you that authoritarianism is the definition of fascism, that China is merely authoritarian when it controls the economy on behalf of the working class. I've ripped that to shreds. We've heard from you that tankies are transphobes and homophobes, and I've shown you that tankies are some of the biggest and defenders of LGBT rights in U.S. history, and basically launched the
that's kind of cringe, but all right.
People. We've heard you bait me over my job and call me anti-American over and over and over again, but then insist that
Vaush is white too, exactly.
Also appealing to basically McCarthyist and
he's more of a woke white, though. He's more of a woke white dude, at least in his view. Of course, he doesn't like black nationalism. He says that they're Nazis too.
Into his sentiments. And over and over again, we've seen you talk like a Fox News employee. You accuse me of denying a genocide. I asked questions about a current event that is going on at a time that U.S. media is actively mobilizing us to hate China and has said things inconsistently.
Absolutely
I'm not denying things because I don't have enough knowledge to deny things. I have questions about what U.S. media is saying about China.
So stop looking in the camera. Stop mugging like you're trying to, I'm so clever. I'm going to look at the camera. Shut up, Vaush. Golly. All right, go ahead.
You act like this is some atrocious crime, and that sets a very, very dangerous precedent.
Absolutely.
By doing that, the next time there's Remember the Maine, and we're sent to, go to war with Spain or the Gulf of Tonkin resolution, you're not allowed to question it, because if you do, then you are just like a tanky. You've said that you don't equate tankies like Langston Hughes, like Nelson Mandela, like Helen Keller with Nazis.
Once again, Caleb, I understand that you're trying to create a thorough line here, but sir, that that ship has sailed. You need to stop going back to Mandela and stop giving these names, because it's not gonna help. You know, they're just gonna see you as a tank. You might as well just call yourself. It's like, be like Eminem. Just be like, I am white. I am a fucking punk. Just be like Eminem and say, I am a tanky. What of it? What are you gonna do about it, Vaush? That's what I would do. I'd be like, fuck you. I am a tanky. What you gonna do about it, huh? What you gonna do? You gonna take me down, Vaush? I would just go straight up thug life on him. I would.
But yet,
but that's
me with Nazis when I do the same thing that they did in their time, which is question the mainstream U.S. media's narrative and accusations against socialist countries. So people can look over the tape, they can look and see what they saw. But you know, I really think what you're doing is quite dangerous.
Pro-right, but
I'm not China's lawyer. I love my country, and when you equate China and you equate China with authoritarianism, I think you're doing yourself a little bit of a disservice, because right now, many people across the United States are suffering. They are not having jobs. They are unemployed.
Absolutely.
You know, there's opioid addiction. There's a prison industrial complex.
Yep.
And what they want, they don't want some hippy dippy worker co-op in the woods.
Yes.
They want a government of action.
Yes. Absolutely true. Absolutely. Cannot disagree at all.
Take power and fight for them.
Yeah.
That will rebuild this
country. And of course, he laughs at it. Of course, Vaush laughs at it because he doesn't care about these other countries and what they do. He doesn't care because he has his own version of things, and he just, you know, oh, well, I believe, you know, once again, like I say, I'm going to say this, I think I've said this for the 4th time here, but I'll say it one more time. Vaush has said himself, he is not attached to the ideas of anarcho-syndicalism or market socialism. He is not attached to those ideas. That, to me, is opportunism. It goes to show that he is not attached to it. The fact that he would immediately, you know, once he got, you know, spurged out and said, oh, well, the black folks that voted for Biden, oh, well, fuck them. The minute he did, you know, minute he got all that out of his system and then became, you know, riding with Biden and all that business, it shows that he is an opportunist, that he doesn't care at all about that. You know, he just, you know, he cares about these small little sections of the country. And he doesn't really, you know, he doesn't even really care about them because, of course, he's had his arguments with transgender folks, and he's has arguments with, you know, pro-blacks, or at least black nationalism in some sense. And, of course, he has just blown it all off. Eventually, someone's going to come along and put him in his place. And I don't say that as, you know, once again, no threats, just in case someone does hear this, no threats. I'm just going to say verbally, they're going to put him in check, verbally, just to make sure. Let's finish this up.
That will stand hand in hand, arm in arm with countries around the world, not preach hate, not try to whip us up into a new war, but instead build international friendship and cooperation, which will rebuild the crumbling infrastructure, which will lift up communities that have been downtrodden. They want...
Like I say, Caleb Maupin came out of this looking much better than he did with Destiny. That was just more, you know, kind of mixed up. And of course, like I say, Destiny's full of it, this and that. But Caleb Maupin, I have a lot more respect for after this debate, I have to say. And it will be, you know, I don't know how it will go with Jason Unruh. If that debate does happen between Jason Unruh and Vaush, that would be that's going to be hilarious. That's all I have to say.
State power.
But yeah, you will notice, of course, that Jason Unruh is in the chat and was asked. You know, yeah, he'll debate him. So yeah. Oh my goodness. But yeah, let's continue.
Authoritarianism on behalf of the people. Popular power, workers' power to stop the crisis that we're in, and saying that socialism is
mugging. Stop it.
You know, employee stock ownership program or something like that is not going to appeal to them. The lie I've heard my whole life is that everywhere socialism has ever been tried, it's been nothing but a failure. It's done nothing. It's never achieved anything. That's a lie, Vaush. That is a lie. Socialism has had huge achievements and successes, and pointing them out is not making the equivalent of the far right, and suggesting that is very...
Even I'm willing to admit that they have made, that socialism has made strides. Even I'm willing to admit that. Whether it was, you know, whether it was Libya, where they had housing at a very good cost, whether it was, you know, the Soviet Union with, you know, actually getting everyone cars. Yeah, it did take time, but they still got them. And, you know, worker protections, actually good, thorough training, something that we don't see today. We don't see that in the United States. It's like, you're taught just the basic stuff. You are not taught about the elements of it. That's why it's so hard for people to find jobs nowadays, because they aren't thoroughly trained. They only know the basics, and they kind of pick up little bits here and there, whether that's, if you're a welder or an HVAC technician or a plumber, you pick these little things up in time. If you were taught those things originally and had more of a more comprehensive training, then that would be a different thing, which you had under socialism, but yeah, anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
Very dangerous to our movement. The worst thing about anti-tankyism, and this will be the last thing I say, is that it doesn't... Jason,
on Ruga's mirror image, Vaush, you have a Discord or Twitter. I do actually have a Twitter. Yeah. It's just pro trans rights stuff. Yeah. Nothing on socialism. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Okay. I'll go ahead and let's see, what is it? I just want to make sure here. Let me see. I think it's, what is it? I can't remember. I just don't have it memorized. Let me see here. What is it? Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, Wayne_returns. There we go. There we go. Okay. Okay. Yeah. It'll be one. Okay. It'll be one. Oh, okay. All right. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, Chairman Swerve. All right. Okay, cool. Cool. All right. Okay, and just check that right quick. All right. Okay, let's continue on here. All right. That sounds good. Yeah. Yeah, I forgot to put the app, but yeah, that's my Twitter. I used to have it on the channel, but I just I felt like, ever since the TikTok stuff, I thought I'd keep more of a low profile and try to have some separation. But yeah, I appreciate that, Kareem. All right, let's go ahead and finish this up. Okay.
Work. When people say to you, hey, you're a socialist just like Stalin. Stalin and the Soviet Union did nothing but horror. If you go, oh, no, I'm a good socialist. I'm not like one of those. Oh, no, I'm a good socialist. I hate all the countries. If you do that, you just look weak. You look pathetic, right?
Yeah.
There will never be a socialism that the New York Times editorial page will
Absolutely. Absolutely correct.
I saw in Venezuela how the Venezuelan government bent over backwards to accommodate the opposition, to give them a voice, to let them participate, to let them have rallies, let them run in elections. U.S. media still says Venezuela is a brutal dictatorship with no dissent allowed. There will never be a socialism that U.S. media will not demonize and make extreme allegations against. That doesn't mean we should blindly believe everything these governments said. I believe in questioning. I believe in questioning and looking into facts, which you are trying to intimidate people out of doing when it comes to China and other countries.
I'm not intimidating anyone, my dude. I just have a YouTube channel.
Please. You're pushing a line, Vaush. That's the whole thing. It's like, you may not be straight up intimidating people, but you are trying to shame people, just as, is that you claimed Caleb Maupin was doing on Twitter to you. Shame. You're shaming him, and you're trying to make comparisons that gymnasts would have trouble with those stretches that you made. These are some stretches where you try to, compare these, when you say Uyghur Holocaust, you have lost. And believe me, I really think that Vaush lost. When he said Uyghur Holocaust and he didn't say anything about that, I was done. That's just, oh my goodness. Okay.
So I know you probably dream of being like the CCP chairman or whatever, but
bye.
Okay, he's like, okay. So that's pretty much it. I think that's pretty much it.
Mouthy Infidel, I know that was a shit show. I love you, buddy. Thanks for stepping in. The first moderator I had lined up literally wouldn't do it because Caleb Maupin is such a toxic influencer. He didn't want to platform him. It was really funny.
Oh, geez. Yeah, well, I don't think I have the power to platform people very effectively, I guess, because I don't have much of a flat platform. But sorry, I feel like I didn't.
He tried. Oh, He tried to. I'll say this for the moderation: is that he tried to give he tried to at least steer it a little bit, but ultimately, Vaush, of course, still wanted to throw out his little darts. Oh, what about the Uyghurs? What about the Uyghurs? Just continuing to interrupt while Caleb Maupin was just like a bulldozer. He just wanted to go through and get his points said. It's like one of those things, the immovable object and the what does the meme go? What is it? Immovable object and the immovable force or something. I can't remember the meme. Anyway, that's basically what it was. Completely.
Sorry. I was just saying, I feel like I didn't do a very good job moderating that, but it was kind of hard to stop you guys when you were going.
It's literally impossible.
Vaush is way more toxic than Caleb.
From talking once Malden starts talking. Also, I know you're not supposed to be biased, so you don't have to agree with me or anything. But like, the idea that like I'm making socialism look bad by denouncing Stalin, but him going like, well, I don't know if there's a genocide. People do lie. What the American
once again, no. The thing is, Vaush, is that what he was mad about was the fact that you would compare the Holocaust to the Uyghurs. It's just, no, that's why it's just,
American people want is authoritarianism for the worker. Like, yeah, like that's not making socialism look bad. Okay, my dude. Anyway, yeah, that went probably about as good as I expected it to. I really do appreciate you. Moderating.
No problem, buddy. Thanks for inviting me to host this exchange of high-level ideas.
Yeah, of course. Everyone, Mouthy Infidel on Twitter and on YouTube, a phenomenal debater, has actually debated Eric Stryker, did a great job of it as well. I know that he has other debates that I haven't seen. I only have so much time, but seriously, a cool dude. Do not check out Caleb Maupin's channel. There is no need to. There's nothing for you there.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good day.
You too.
Now, of course, you'll notice that usually Vaush spends about an hour doing, reading through the chat and reading through the donations, but he ends mysteriously very quickly here. This is very telling in my view. So let's just see.
All right. Well, I think I handled that about as I don't think it was possible for me to handle that better than I already handled that. I think that was about as good as it gets.
Like I say, I said this at the beginning of the stream. You'll notice that there's this big old bulge on his left ear, and you're like, what's this about? Well, let's hear.
Imagine being Caleb Maupin and trying to come on as a good representative of tankies. You need to title the video the thing Maupin suggested. Yeah, that guy was worse than AJW. Holy shit. Yeah, but it feels better because I know that I actually get under Maupin's skin. Because I'm an actual socialist. I love it. Oh, God, I love being.
See, the thing is, once again, is that Vaush makes it personal. He makes it very possessive, like, well, so, my socialism. It has nothing to do with you, buddy. It has to do with everybody. Now, of course, you want to make it that way, though, because, even me being a Caucasian as I am, that's kind of what crackers do. They see it as a possession, as a toy, as a model. It's like, oh, this is my thing. It's mine. I don't want anyone involved. I'm going to take my ball and go home. That's sort of his attitude.
Being called a radlib by people who are like, well, socialism is actually when the government runs stuff. Dude, that's literally that's like an 8th grader's understanding of, oh yeah, capitalism is when the people own it, and socialism is when the government own it. And I'm like, no, actually it has to do with collective ownership and the abolition of the. And Caleb Maupin's like, yeah, the government just needs to own it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's socialism. Jesus.
Yeah, that is going to be an interesting battle between Pierre versus Twist. And I think what I heard with Julie is that he's coming on after the debate. So I heard is that it doesn't sound like it's the debate between them. It's just going to be a Pierre versus Twist. So I heard. But you know what? I'm going to let y'all go ahead and talk about it. But I'm just saying. I'm just going to insert myself out. We'll just finish this up.
Oh, God. And he went right into the fucking genocide denial, too. Holy shit. He actually, guys, do you all understand the Red-Brown Alliance now when I talk about it? Do you understand? That guy's rhetoric was literally identical to that of a neo-Nazis. On every level.
Bruh. Really? Okay.
The power of the state elevates the individual. Everyone has freedom within like the glory of the state. Oh, there's a genocide happening. I don't know. You're calling me a Nazi, which means you hate all like socialist people or whatever. Yeah. Jason Unruh said he would debate you because someone asked him to debate you. I gotta paste these out.
What a coward. I gotta paste these out. No, you could do it. The thing is, this is your whole job. You have said this over and over. Oh, well, this is my job to do that. And yet now it's like, oh, I gotta paste these out. Give me a break. Go ahead.
We didn't even get to talk about theory or anything like that. Most Nazis were former tankies. Yeah, Count Dankula still has a hammer and sickle tattooed somewhere on him. Maupin called fucking Leslie Feinberg a tanky. Yeah, well, he called everyone. To him, everyone who's a socialist is a tanky to me, you know? So, yeah, it doesn't matter. Oh, God. Yeah, a strong authoritarian government to cut through bureaucracy. He's literally defending fascism. He's literally this is just fascism. This is
literally defending fascism. Of course, did he give any examples of what China is actually doing? You know, other than of course must state. What else have they done? You know, is there a blank shirt involved? You know, is there a red, a black shirt involved thing? Is there, going around saying that I don't understand this whole idea. It's like, bruh, what are you doing? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Vaush is why we need North Korean haircuts. Exactly. Yeah. Vaush is why we need to bring spanking into school. Yeah, this is just absolutely ridiculous. I mean,
just fascism with red flags. Oh God. I know it's cowardice and Blythe. I talk fast, okay? It's hard to keep up. Should we critically support China or not? I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think we should critically support China to the extent that it can counterbalance the geopolitics of America. But I think that if China was to replace America on the global stage, they would be worse than us. So
what? China would be worse than America. I mean, that's galaxy brain thinking. That is the definition of it. That's like,
we have to keep a careful balance. We have a fascist government on one hand and a proto-fascist government on the other hand. Okay, we have to delicately balance these two. You have to send like, okay, every once in a while, you guys need to PayPal Donald Trump, and then you need to PayPal fucking Xi. Okay, and we need to keep the two. We need to keep the two level. Okay, you need to make sure the PayPals are distributed.
See, the thing is that he really is the mirror image of like a 4chan troll in a lot of ways, because of course he'll just say things like, all conservatives are pedophiles, this and that, and all this sort of thing, and just that, oh well, conservatives just like to see black people get killed. It's like, you can feel as you want to about basic conservatives and call them boomers and call them cringe or whatever the case may be, or that they're losers. That's fair, but to actually say those words, golly, it's just, and of course I understand he just says things for shock value. It's the same thing, it's just, okay.
Red alert: Sean beat the Pantheon, not a drill. Fuck. Fuck, I'm a Bernie or Buster now. God damn it. I made a bet.
Can't trust guy now.
Oh, shit.
That's why they're banned.
I'm sorry. I have other, fuck. Stop donating. Fuck. I have other stuff to do. God damn it. I need to respond to these donations later. I'll have to...
Why is that, Vaush?
I'll respond to them at the beginning of the next stream. I have stuff I need to do. I didn't expect all this to last so long. I'm really sorry about the unread donations, guys. They're not going anywhere. They're going to stay right here in my fucking thing. And I'll do them tomorrow.
He's gone back, and let me just say this before we finish this up here. Is it with Vaush in terms of, donations? Is it sometimes he'll be like, well, read only, it's like, oh, well, it's like when you have Streamlabs, sometimes you can have people that, when they type something, when they send money, that a computer voice will just, read it off. It's like sometimes he'll do that. He says, well, I'm not obligated to read all of them. But now in some cases, he's like, well, now I'll read them all out. So he's very shady. I mean, I think that's, just one thing. But yeah, this is just.
Like before stream, like I'll start stream and then I'll do them. I'm sorry. I love you. Stop the money. Okay. I'm a bad boy. What happened? Oh, I just have something I need to get done really quick. I have like doctor related stuff. Screenshot the YouTube ones. They'll still be here. It'll still be kept. They'll still be here. All right. Okay. Doctor? Yeah. I got to get these things lopped off eventually, right? Takes a little bit of doing. Takes a little bit of doing, All right. I love you guys. Thank you for sitting through. Today was all about the suffering. Okay.
Golly. I mean, okay. I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and let's wait for this to start up. Y'all don't want to watch this video.
Well, howdy there, internet people. It's Bo.
Okay, sorry. There we go. Okay. I'm not going to make y'all sit through that. Okay, so let me go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and click off that there because we're done looking at that. So that was absolute cringe. And believe me, Vaush is going to have to respond to this, and he's going to have to, he's going to think that he won. And I think, you can feel as you want to about Caleb Maupin, but I think that Caleb Maupin came off in this looking so much better than Vaush did. Vaush just came off as someone who was just, the typical American lefty, who's just like, well, China does all this to their people. Oh, what do they do? And it's just very disingenuous. It's like, you can hate both. I can understand that. It's just like, I'm a little bit more on Caleb Maupin's side in this case. Like, yeah, in general, Caleb Maupin is just kind of cringe. So who cares? But it's like, in general, just, yeah, exactly. Wow, just wow. Exactly, Glass. No. So it's just absolutely ridiculous. When we do this and see this stuff, I don't make it a point to try to respond to Vaush that much because it's pointless, and there are a lot of other people that do it. But I figure I would do it at least the one time and at least show everyone what this guy is really about. And golly, it's just woo. This may be, you know what? Let's finish this up. Let's finish it up on this. Let me finish it up on this. Let's see here. Yeah. Okay. Chinese name. Yeah. Because I think we are. I don't know if they'll get me in trouble for this one. I don't know, but we'll find out. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and play it from here. I think. Let me see if y'all can hear this. There we go. Let's go ahead and because honestly, I this is literally Salute for China. Let's salute for China. Why not? Brilliant. I think that's all that needs to be said. Yeah. I think this. Yeah. I think we'll end up there just to show that once again, this. Yeah. I think Vaush has turned me into a dangest, and golly, just absolute ridiculousness. So yeah. All right, we're gonna end it there, folks. Y'all have a good night. Tomorrow, just to let y'all know, I will be recording the next two chapters in Bernays. And when do you expect the Vaush reading list to be sent? Probably never. Yeah, Islamo Marxist Dangus. Exactly. Yeah, that's about how I feel at this point. Yeah, Islam Bowl, or whichever meme it is. That's about how I feel at this point. It's just. Anywho, I'm gonna call it there. Like I say, we're gonna have another regular video coming out though about chapters 6 and 7 of Propaganda by Mr. Edward Bernays. And like I said, that one hopefully will be a little bit shorter than the other one, because that chapter 5 was a beast. Okay, we'll send, yeah. Yeah, that one was a beast. That chapter 5 of State, I keep on saying State Revolution, of Propaganda. So once we get through that, chapter 6 and 7 it'll probably be about, we'll see how far I can read, but basically, or how fast I can read and it sound legible. Sound intelligible. But basically, let's say about 40 minutes. So that's about how long that video will be estimated. Anyway, I'll keep it there though. I appreciate y'all hanging out, and I think we'll keep it there. So as always, y'all have a good one, and stick around for the next video. See you later, folks. Bye bye. Boink.